The story doesn't begin with a hero. It begins with a mistake. High above a blood-soaked altar, the Luslan Emperor prepares a ritual meant to summon a god. Not a warrior. Not a champion. A god. The kingdom needs power, and the Emperor is willing to break every forbidden rule to get it. Dark symbols ignite. The sky tears open. Something is coming. The priests kneel. The Emperor smiles. But when the light fades, the figure standing in the circle is not a god. It's a boy. Just a confused human kid. His name is Sihan. And the Emperor instantly realizes something went horribly wrong. This isn't the divine being he wanted. This is just a useless accident. So the Emperor does the simplest thing possible. He abandons the boy. No training. No protection. No explanation. Sihan is thrown into the wilderness of a brutal world that eats weak people alive. And for a long time, that's exactly what this world tries to do. And years pass. The boy who was discarded like trash slowly disappears. In his place, something else begins to form. A survivor. Then a fighter. Then something far more dangerous. Because Sihan refuses to die, he learns to hunt. To fight. To endure pain that would break ordinary people. Day after day. Battle after battle. Until eventually, the boy the Emperor threw away becomes a warrior that even monsters fear. And now, he's back. One night, a massive summoned beast appears in the capital. A creature the Emperor himself called forth to show his power. It towers over the battlefield. Soldiers gather. No one can stop it. Except one man walking calmly toward the monster. Sihan. For years he has sharpened one technique. One terrifying skill. Sky-breaking art. He raises his hand. The ground trembles. Then, mountain rumble. The air explodes. A shockwave slams into the monster like a falling mountain, crushing it instantly. The creature that terrified the entire army collapses in seconds. The battlefield goes silent. And for the first time in years, the Emperor finally realizes something. The boy he abandoned has become a monster. But Sihan isn't here for revenge. Not yet. He has something else in mind. Because he didn't fight alone during those brutal years. Along the way, he met others. Warriors. Rebels. Fighters who also wanted to overthrow the Emperor's tyranny. Together they formed something powerful. 6 heroes. 6 comrades who fought beside him through impossible battles. And standing among them is the woman he loves. Lifingna. They fought together. Bled together. And tonight, they've finally won. The Emperor is dead. Sihan himself delivers the final blow. The tyrant falls. The war is over. For the first time since he was summoned into this cruel world, Sihan allows himself to believe something dangerous. Maybe now he can finally live peacefully. Maybe now the fighting is over. Maybe now he can build a future with the people he trusts. But the moment the Emperor dies, something changes. The 6 heroes exchange glances. Their expressions shift. And before Sihan even realizes what's happening, they move. Magic erupts beneath his feet. A dimensional portal tears open behind him. Sihan freezes. Confused. Because the people activating the spell are his own comrades. The heroes he trusted. The friends who fought beside him. Even Lavina, the woman he loved, stands there silently as the trap activates. Sihan stares at them, trying to understand. But the truth hits him all at once. This wasn't sudden. This was planned. They never intended to share power with him. Because the man who defeated the Emperor is too dangerous to keep alive. The portal begins pulling him in. Wind screams around him. Sihan struggles to escape. But the spell is already complete. For a brief moment, his eyes meet Livina's. And he waits. Just one word. One explanation. But none comes. Only silence. And then, the world disappears. The legendary hero, the warrior who ended a tyrant's reign, is thrown through a dimensional gate. Exiled. Not killed. Not undead. Just erased. And when the portal closes, Sihan returns to the only world he once belonged to. Her. But the story of the betrayed hero is far from over. Because somewhere deep inside Sihan's mind, one thought begins to burn. If fate ever gives him the chance to return, he won't come back as their ally. He'll come back for revenge. Something falls out of the sky. Not a meteor. Not a monster. A man. He crashes straight into the middle of a quiet farmland field, tearing through crops like a cannonball. Dirt explodes everywhere. For a moment, everything goes silent. Then a girl slowly approaches the crater. She's holding a spear. Because in this world, when something falls from the sky, it's usually bad news. And what she sees inside the crater is strange. A completely naked man. Unconscious. Covered in dirt. Barely breathing. The girl sighs. Great, another weirdo. But despite the ridiculous situation, she doesn't leave him there. Instead, she drags the unconscious stranger back to her small farmhouse and gives him clothes and a place to rest. Hours later, the man finally wakes up. His eyes open slowly. For a second, he just stares at the ceiling. Then the memories hit him all at once. The Emperor. The victory. The betrayal. The portal. And now, he's back. Sung Sihan has returned to Tyrant. He sits up calmly, almost too calmly for someone who was just thrown across worlds. Across the room, the girl who saved him watches carefully. She's not stupid. No ordinary traveler falls from the sky. But before she can ask anything, Sihan speaks first. His voice is quiet. Where am I? The girl answers cautiously. This is the Lilstein Kingdom. The moment Sihan hears that name, something flickers in his eyes. Because that kingdom belongs to someone he knows very well. One of the 6 heroes who betrayed him. One of the people who pushed him into that portal. Sihan keeps his face calm. But inside, pieces are already moving. Then he asks another question. A dangerous one. What about King Lustenad? The girl freezes. Just slightly. But Sihan notices. Her grip tightens around her spear. Because that's not a question a random traveler should be asking. And suddenly the air in the room changes. Before Sihan can react, the spear flashes forward. She attacks him. Fast. Precise. Straight for his throat. But Sihan doesn't even stand up. He simply lifts the wooden spoon he was holding. And in one effortless motion, clack. The spear stops. Redirected. His wrist twists once. The weapon slips from her hand instantly. The girl stumbles back in shock. Because that movement was absurd. No magic. No weapon. Just a spoon. And yet she couldn't even see what he did. Sihan sets the spoon down calmly like nothing happened. Then he looks at her. Really looks at her this time. Because there's something strange about this girl. Her stance. Her instincts. She's not just a farmer. She's trained. Dangerous. The girl steps back slowly, eyes wide now. Who are you? Sihan considers the question for a moment. There's no reason to lie. Not yet. So he answers honestly. I am from Earth. 3 simple words. But in this world, those words mean something very specific. The girl's expression changes instantly. Shock. Real shock. Because there's only one kind of person who comes from Earth. An otherworlder. A summoned hero. And the moment she realizes that, something else clicks in her mind. Which makes her stare at him even harder. Because if he's an otherworlder, then there's only one explanation for the terrifying skill she just witnessed. The man sitting in front of her is not just some random traveler. He's someone who survived this world long enough to become terrifying. But Sihan isn't the only one with secrets. Because after a long silence, the girl finally speaks again. And what she says next changes everything. My name is Alida. She pauses. Then continues. Alitir's Bella Lustin of Luslan. For a moment, the room feels colder. Because that name, that last name, Sihan knows it very well. Luslan. The royal bloodline. The empire he destroyed. The king he personally killed. Which means the girl standing in front of him right now is something impossible. She smiles faintly, almost teasing, and delivers the truth without hesitation. I'm the daughter of the king you killed. Silence fills the room. The betrayed hero, and the princess of the fallen empire, standing face to face, and neither of them expected this meeting. The princess of the fallen empire, and the man who killed her father, standing in the same tiny farmhouse. For a moment, neither of them moves. But instead of attacking, Alida just sighs and sits down. Which is not the reaction Sihan expected. Because if she truly wanted revenge, she had her chance earlier. So why didn't she take it? The answer comes quickly. Because Alida's story is nothing like the proud royal life people would imagine. After the emperor, her father, died, the Luslan Empire collapsed over me. The royal family was haunted. The palace burned. And the surviving bloodline had to disappear. Alida was taken away by a loyal knight before anyone could find her. Hidden deep in the wilderness. Based far from politics, far from the war. But not far from danger. Because the knight who raised her didn't teach her how to be a princess. He taught her how to survive. Swordsmanship. Footwork. Combat instincts. Everything needed to stay alive in a world that wanted her bloodline erased. Eventually even that knight disappeared. Leaving Alida alone in the forest, protecting the last secret of the Luslan line. And for years, she managed to stay hidden. Until today. Because something changed. Sihan suddenly stands up, his eyes scanning the forest outside the cabin. The air feels wrong. Too quiet. Too heavy. Then he realizes the truth. His arrival from the portal created a massive disturbance in the area. A signal. And if anyone nearby was watching, they would know something strange just happened. Which means, Alita's hiding place is no longer hidden. Right on cue, voices echo from the trees. Metal armor clinks. Branches snap. Soldiers. Dozens of them. The small farmhouse is completely surrounded. Alita doesn't panic. She already expected this day might come. Without another word, she grabs her sword and walks outside. The soldiers immediately react. Weapons drawn. Shields raised. Their captain steps forward with a cold smile. Princess Alita's Luslan. So they know exactly who she is, and they didn't come to negotiate. They came to capture the last blood of the fallen empire. Alita doesn't waste time talking. The moment the soldiers move, she attacks. And the battlefield explodes. Her sword flashes through the air like lightning. One soldier falls. Then another. Then another. Her movements are sharp, precise, incredibly fast. The troops expected a runaway princess. What they got instead is a warrior. Within seconds the first line collapses. But numbers still matter. More soldiers rush in. Spears. Swords. Arrows. Even for someone this skilled, it's too many. Still, Alita keeps fighting. Spinning. Dodging. Striking. But eventually, a new figure steps forward. A knight. Tall. Calm. And far more dangerous than the soldiers around him. His name is Sihan. Unlike the others, he doesn't rush. He studies her movements. Waits. Then suddenly he moves. The speed is overwhelming. Their swords clash once. Twice. 3 times. And then, crack. Alita's arm bends at a terrible angle. Her sword drops. The pain hits instantly. The soldiers rush forward, surrounding her with blades at her throat. It's over. Even Sihan looks slightly impressed. You fought well. Alita breathes slowly. Her arm hangs useless at her side. But she doesn't struggle. Because she knows there's no winning this fight anymore. Slowly, she raises her good hand. Surrender. The soldiers step closer to secure their prisoner. Sihan walks forward to finish it. But just as he reaches out to grab her, a voice speaks quietly behind him. Are you done? Sihan freezes. So do the soldiers. Because that voice didn't come from the battlefield. It came from right behind the knight. Sihan slowly turns his head, and his eyes widen. Standing directly behind him, calm, unbothered, like he had been there the entire time, is Sun Sihan, the man who shouldn't even be here. And suddenly, this battle isn't over anymore. Sihan doesn't even have time to react. 1 second he's reaching for the captured princess. The next, a hand grabs the back of his armor. Then, boom. Sihan's entire body slams face first into the dirt. The soldiers freeze. Because their captain, the strongest knight among them, was just dropped like a sack of potatoes. And the man standing behind him, he didn't even look serious. Sun Sihan slowly cracks his neck like someone who just woke up from a nap. Then he looks at the surrounding soldiers. Dozens of weapons instantly point at him. Spears. Swords. Crossbows. But Sihan's expression barely changes. Almost bored. One soldier shouts, "Kill him," and suddenly the entire squad rushes forward. Blades flashing. Boots pounding the ground. To them, this should be an easy fight. One man. Unarmed. Surrounded. But the moment the first soldier swings his sword, everything falls apart. Sihan moves. Not fast. Not flashy. Just precise. A fist snaps forward. But the first soldier drops instantly. Another lunges with a spear. Sihan sidesteps. Grabs the shaft. Pulls. The soldier flies forward and slams into 2 of his own teammates. 3 down. Another tries to tackle him. Bad idea. Sihan pivots slightly, elbow. Hey. Palm strike. 3 more bodies collapse before the others even understand what happened. From the outside, it almost looks casual. Like he's not fighting. Like he's just walking through them. The soldiers panic. They start attacking all at once. But that only makes it worse. Every step they take toward him turns into another mistake. A wrist twist. A shoulder throw. A perfectly timed kick. Men crash into the ground one after another. Armor clattering. Groans filling the air. And the most terrifying part. Sihan isn't even using a weapon. No sword. No technique. Just his bare hands. Meanwhile Alita watches from the side, clutching her broken arm. Her eyes widen more with every passing second, because she trained her whole life to survive fights like this. And yet, this man is dismantling trained soldiers like they were children. Within minutes, the battlefield goes quiet. Every soldier is down, some unconscious, some barely able to move, but none of them are dead. Sihan looks around calmly, breathing steady, not even sweating. The surviving soldiers slowly crawl backward, staring at him like he's some kind of monster. One of them whispers, "Retreat," and no one argues. The remaining troops scramble away, dragging their injured comrades with them, because they all understand the same terrifying truth. If that man actually wanted to kill them, none of them would still be breathing. When the forest finally goes quiet again, Alita stares at the battlefield, then at Sihan. "Why didn't you kill them?" Sihan shrugs slightly. "They were just following orders." Then he looks down at his own hand, flexes his fingers. Something feels wrong. Weaker. Much weaker. And that's when he finally says something surprising. "I'm not at full strength." Alita raises an eyebrow. "Not full strength?" "He just defeated an entire squad barehanded." Sihan continues calmly. "That portal earlier, it drained most of my power." He pauses, then adds something that makes the situation even more ridiculous. "I can probably only use about 10% right now." Alita just stares at him. 10%? He just wiped out trained soldiers at 10%. She suddenly realizes something very important. If this man ever returned to full power, the world would have a serious problem. Sihan finally turns back toward the cabin. "We should leave." Alita blinks. "Leave?" Sihan nods toward the direction the soldiers fly. They'll report what happened. And when they do, he pauses slightly. People will start asking questions. Questions about a mysterious warrior strong enough to defeat an entire squad alone. Questions about someone who appeared right after a dimensional disturbance. Questions about a name many powerful people thought was gone forever. The name Sung Sihan. Which means staying here would only bring more soldiers, more problems, more attention. Alita sighs. Honestly, that makes sense. Her hiding place is already compromised anyway. So the two of them pack what little they have and begin walking down the forest road together. Their destination, a massive trade city known as Kigen. A place full of merchants, travelers, and an anime. For now. But far away, inside a royal castle, a report arrives. Soldiers defeated. Princess Luslan confirmed alive. And most importantly, a mysterious warrior who fought barehanded and destroyed an entire unit. The king reads the report slowly, then leans back in his throne. Because something about this story sounds very familiar. Too familiar. The king whispers one name quietly to himself. Sihan, and suddenly the possibility becomes terrifying. Because if the legendary hero truly returned, then the people who betrayed him might soon have a very big problem. The ritual chamber smells like blood. Candles flicker along the walls while a man kneels at the center of a massive magic circle. Chains rattle. A prisoner struggles weakly on the stone floor. But no one is here to save him. Because the man performing the ritual is the king himself, King Rilstein. And right now, he isn't ruling a kingdom. He's hunting something. The prisoner screams as the spell activates. Dark mana floods the chamber. Symbols ignite across the floor. Then slowly, painfully, something begins draining out of the prisoner's body. Not normal mana. Something older. Something tied to a bloodline that was supposed to be erased from this world. The Luslan bloodline. The prisoner's body convulses as the king pulls the power out of him piece by piece. The magic circle glows brighter. Then, the air vibrates. Just for a second. But that tiny ripple is exactly what Rilstein was waiting for. His eyes narrow. Because that vibration shouldn't exist anymore. Not after the empire fell. Not after the royal family disappeared. Which means only one thing. Somewhere in this world, a Luslan descendant is still alive. The prisoner collapses, lifeless. But Rilstein doesn't even look at the corpse. He's already thinking. Because earlier that same day, a strange report arrived from the forest. A squad defeated. A mysterious warrior. And a princess who should have been long dead. The king slowly smiles. Because if those two stories are connected, then something much bigger is happening. He taps the report against his palm. Then mutters quietly. Sung Sihan. The legendary hero. The man who disappeared years ago after the war. The man who helped destroy the Luslan Empire. The man who should be gone. But if the rumors are true, if that mysterious warrior really is him, then the world might be about to change again. Meanwhile, far away from the dark ritual chamber, The exact people the king is searching for walk straight into the busiest city in the region. Sihan, a massive commercial hub where merchants, mercenaries, adventurers, and travelers from dozens of races flood the streets every single day. Humans, beastskin, dwarves, even the occasional demon-blooded merchant. It's loud, chaotic, perfect for disappearing. Alita stares around in amazement, because after years of hiding alone in the forest, a place like this feels overwhelming. Crowds push through the market. Vendors shout prices. Carriages rumble past. And for the first time since the soldiers' attack, they finally look like just two ordinary travelers. But Sihan isn't relaxing. Not even a little. His eyes scan the streets constantly. Every alley. Every rooftop. Every passing stranger. Because he knows something Alita doesn't. They were not truly hidden. Not yet. After a while, Alita finally asks the question that's been bothering her. If this place is so crowded, why do you still look like someone's hunting us? Sihan stops walking, then quietly gestures for her to follow him into a narrow side alley. Once they re out of the crowd, he finally explains. It's the blood. Alita blinks. What? Sihan looks directly at her. Your bloodline. That word alone already sounds dangerous. But Sihan continues calmly. The Luslan family wasn't just a royal house. It was tied to something deeper. Dimensional energy. Ancient magic. Power strong enough that certain people in the world spent years studying it. And if someone knows the right technique, they can detect that bloodline. Not by sight. Not by name. But by something called dimensional vibration. A faint signal that leaks into the world whenever someone with Luslan blood exists nearby. Alita slowly processes what that means. Yuri saying, people can track me. Sihan nods. Please. A cold silence fills the alley, which explains why soldiers were able to find her hidden cabin. Why the world kept closing in. Why hiding alone was never going to work forever. Alita exhales slowly. So what do we do? Sihan doesn't hesitate. He lifts one hand. Ma flows quietly through his fingers. A thin ripple spreads through the air like a soft pulse. Then fades. That should hold for now. Alita frowns. What did you just do? Sihan shrugs. Block the vibration. It's a delicate technique. Not flashy. Not destructive. But extremely complicated. One of the many strange skills Sihan picked up during the Long War. For now, it will hide Alita's bloodline signal. At least temporarily. But it also creates a new problem. Because once the vibration is blocked, there's only one stable anchor left for that energy. Sihan. Which means from this moment on, if Alita moves too far away from him, the signal will return instantly. Alita slowly realizes what that means. Zoe can leave your side. Sihan nods once. Pretty much. The princess of a destroyed empire. Now tied to the man who killed her father. Traveling together. Hiding in a crowded city. While powerful people across the kingdom quietly begin asking the same question. What if the hero who disappeared has finally come back? Sihan kneels in the middle of the command hall. Not in defeat. In rage. The memory keeps replaying in his mind. That man appearing behind him. That single punch. The humiliation of losing in front of his own soldiers. Sihan's fist tightens. I request permission. The room goes silent. To hunt them down personally. The commander studies him for a long moment. Sihan isn't asking for revenge. He's asking to restore his honor. Finally the order is granted. Sihan stands. And immediately begins preparing for one destination. Sihan. Because if the mysterious warrior and the Luslan princess are hiding anywhere, it's there. And Sihan intends to finish the job himself. Meanwhile, the two people he's hunting are walking straight into trouble. Sihan is loud, crowded, chaotic. But outside the city gates, something else is gathering. Adventurers, mercenaries, local fighters, all forming a temporary monster hunting party. A subjugation group. At the center stands a large man in armor barking orders. Lord Ted. Plain wolves have been spotted in the northern forest. Anyone joining the hunt, line up. Most people step forward for the same reason. Money. Plain wolf pelts sell well. And monster hunts always attract desperate fighters. Sihan watches quietly from the edge of the crowd. Then he steps forward. Alita looks confused. You rejoining. Sihan shrugs. We need money. Fair point. And honestly, a monster hunt is the least suspicious job two travelers could take. So the two of them quietly blend into the group. But as they march toward the forest, Alita keeps watching Sihan. Because something about him feels strange. Almost excited. Eventually she asks the obvious question. You fought earlier without even trying. So how strong were you before? Sihan walks calmly beside her, then answers casually. Divinity. Alita stops walking. What? Sihan continues like he just said something normal. This world ranks battle energy in stages. He lifts a finger. Seed. Another finger. Warrior. Then, Knight. Master. Transcendental. And finally, Divinity. The highest level. A realm so powerful that people at that stage are practically living disasters. Sihan glances back at her. That's where I was. Alita just stares. Because if that's true, then the man walking beside her was once one of the most terrifying fighters alive. But then another question appears. Was? Sihan exhales slowly. The portal drained most of my energy. He flexes his hand. I'm back down to warrior level. That sounds bad. But Alita already saw him dismantle trained soldiers barehanded. If that's what warrior level looks like, then what did divinity look like? She's still thinking about that when Lord Tid suddenly raises a hand. Stop. The entire hunting party freezes. The forest ahead is quiet. Too quiet. Then a low growl echoes through the trees. One wolf steps out. Then another. Then another. Eyes glowing. Fur burning with faint heat. Flame wolves. A full pack. The hunters tighten their grips on their weapons. Lord Tid draws his sword. Formation. But before the group can organize, the wolves attack. They move like fire spreading through dry grass. Fast. Aggressive. One leaps directly toward Lord Tid. He blocks. But the impact sends him sliding back across the dirt. Another wolf slams into the flank of the formation. Chaos erupts instantly. Hunters scream. Steel clashes. Claws rip through armor. The pack is stronger than anyone expected. Then suddenly, a much heavier step echoes from deeper in the forest. The wolves stop moving. Almost respectfully. Then something larger emerges. Twice the size of the others. Its fur burns brighter. Heat distorts the air around its body. An alpha flame wolf. The true leader of the pack. Lord Tid turns to face it, but he's already bleeding. One leg crushed. Armor cracked. The alpha wolf lowers its head, preparing to charge. And the moment it moves, Lord Tid knows he's dead. The monster lunges, faster than anything he's ever fought. But just before its claws reach him, someone steps forward. A single figure walking calmly toward the charging alpha. Sihan. Alita's eyes widen. Because Sihan doesn't look worried. He looks interested. Almost like he's been waiting for this. The massive wolf roars. Flames burst from its fur as it prepares to tear him apart. But Sihan simply rolls his shoulders once, cracks his neck, and smiles faintly. Because after days of hiding, after suppressing his power, after pretending to be just another traveler, he finally gets to do something he actually enjoys. Fight. And if the monster in front of him is strong enough, maybe, just maybe, this will be fun. The alpha wolf moves first. And it moves like a nightmare. Flames explode from its fur as the massive beast lunges forward, claws tearing through the air with enough force to rip a man in half. Most of the hunters freeze. Some run. But one person charges straight at it. Alita. Her broken arm is still wrapped tightly against her body, but her remaining hand grips her sword firmly. She knows exactly how dangerous the monster is. But she also knows something else. If the alpha breaks through here, the entire hunting party dies. So she attacks. Her blade flashes upward in a clean, precise strike aimed directly at the wolf's neck. For a split second, it almost works. Steel grazes the monster's fur. But that's all. The alpha wolf moves faster. Its massive paw slams into her mid-swing. Crack. Alita's body flies through the air and crashes into the dirt like a rag doll. Her sword skids across the ground. She doesn't get back up. The hunters watching from behind immediately feel the cold grip of panic. If someone like her couldn't even land a proper strike, then this fight is already over. But the alpha wolf isn't finished. It slowly walks toward the unconscious Alita, claws sinking into the soil with every step. Then its jaws close around her armor and lift her body off the ground like prey. The message is obvious. This is its kill. And that's when something changes. Sihan's eyes narrow. Until now, he had been watching quietly, observing the wolves, testing the situation. But the moment the alpha lifts Alita into the air, his expression shifts. Because this isn't just about saving her. It's about survival. A secret connection exists between them. Something Alita herself barely understands. The summoning ritual that brought Sihan into this world didn't disappear when he was exiled. It simply changed. Right now, Alita is the anchor holding him in this world. The summoner. the stabilizing link between Earth and Terraner. If she dies, Sihan doesn't just lose an ally. He might vanish from this world entirely, which means the monster holding her right now is threatening his very existence. The air around Sihan suddenly feels colder. The alpha wolf growls, almost sensing the shift. Then Sihan steps forward. One step. Slow. Calm. But something about it makes even the wolves hesitate, because the man walking toward them no longer looks like a tired traveler. He looks like something far more dangerous. The alpha wolf roars and charges. Flames burst from its body as it lunges directly at him. Its jaws open wide. One bite would crush his skull. But Sihan doesn't dodge. He doesn't retreat. Instead, he raises one hand and whispers something quietly. Mana erupts from his palm like a sudden storm. A concentrated burst of magic blasts forward at point-blank range. The impact is instant. Boom. The alpha wolf is thrown backward like it just slammed into a wall of invisible force. Its body crashes through the dirt and rolls across the clearing before finally going still. Silence spreads across the battlefield. The pack freezes. Then slowly, the remaining wolves begin backing away. Because animals understand something humans sometimes miss. Predators know when they re-outmatch. Within seconds, the pack disappears into the forest, leaving only smoke, scorched dirt, and stunned hunters. Lord Ten slowly pushes himself up from the ground. His eyes move from the dead alpha wolf to the man standing calmly in front of it. And for a moment, no one speaks. Because what they just witnessed doesn't make sense. That burst of magic, it wasn't something an ordinary fighter could produce. Not even close. Meanwhile, Sihan simply walks over to the fallen Alida. He gently removes the wolf's jaw from her armor and checks her pulse. Still alive. Just unconscious. Good. Later that night, the hunters gather around a campfire. The alpha wolf is already being skinned for its valuable pelt. But most of the attention isn't on the monster. It's on Sihan. People keep glancing at him, whispering, trying to figure out what they saw. But Sihan ignores all of it. He's focused on the small fire in front of him. And eventually, Alida wakes up. She sits up slowly, still dazed. Then immediately remembers the battle. The wolf, dead. Sihan replies calmly. She studies his face for a moment, then asks the question she's been holding back. Why are people hunting you? The campfire crackles quietly between them. For a long moment, Sihan says nothing. Then finally, he answers. Years ago, he fought alongside 6 heroes to overthrow the Luslan Emperor. They were allies. Friends. One of them was even the woman he loved. But after the war ended, those same heroes decided something. Sihan was too powerful. Too dangerous. Too unpredictable. So instead of celebrating victory together, they betrayed him. Threw him through a dimensional portal. And erased him from the world. The fire pops softly. Alita listens without interrupting. Because the story explains something she hadn't fully understood before. The kingdoms ruling this world right now are led by the very people who betrayed him. Which means if Sihan truly plans revenge, he's planning to fight the rulers of the entire continent. Finally, she asks the obvious question. Then why come back? Sihan stares into the fire. His voice calm, quiet, but carrying a weight that makes the answer obvious. Because some debts don't disappear. The flames flicker in his eyes. And somewhere far away, the 6 heroes who thought they buried him forever have no idea that the man they betrayed has already returned. The night should have been peaceful. The alpha wolf is dead. The hunters are celebrating. The danger should be over. But Sihan doesn't relax. Because something about the forest still feels wrong. Too quiet. Too watchful. So when a figure suddenly appears at the edge of the camp, Sihan notices immediately. A man, standing calmly in the darkness. Watching. The hunters panic. Weapons rise instantly. But before anyone can react, Alita moves first. She remembers that face. That armor. That knight. Sinan. The man who shattered her arm earlier. Her sword flashes out of its sheath. She charges. Fast. Precise. The same lethal swordsmanship that cut down soldiers just days ago. But the man in front of her doesn't even draw his weapon. He just moves. Her blade slices forward and misses. Sinan shifts slightly to the side. The strike cuts through empty air. Alita attacks again. Another slash. Another miss. Sinan's body moves like flowing water. Step. Turn. Lean. Every attack slips past him like he already knew exactly where her blade would go. Sihan watches carefully. Because this isn't luck. This is skill. Very high-level skill. Finally he raises a hand. Enough. Alita stops mid-swing. Reluctantly, Sihan lowers his hands as well. Then slowly, he steps forward and kneels right in front of Sihan. The hunters nearby stare in confusion. Even Alita looks stunned, because this man came here to hunt them. But instead, he bows his head. Lord Sihan. The camp goes silent. Sihan raises an eyebrow. You know me. Sihan lifts his head slightly. His expression isn't hostile anymore. It's something else. Respect. Oh. More than that. Devotion. Of course I know you. His hand reaches into a pouch and pulls something out. A small piece of cloth. Old. Tated. The hunters lean closer to see what it is. Sihan squints. Then his face slowly changes, because he recognizes it instantly. Sihan proudly raises the item like a sacred relic. My proof. Your underwear. The entire camp freezes. Alita blinks. What? Sihan continues proudly. Years ago, during the war, I was just a low-ranking soldier. Our unit was ambushed. Everyone died, except him, because at the last moment, someone appeared. A warrior who crushed the enemy forces and saved the survivors. That warrior was Sung Sihan. During the chaos of battle, Sihan picked up something left behind. Something he kept all these years as proof that the greatest hero of the war truly existed. Sihan pinches the bridge of his nose. You kept that. Sihan nods enthusiastically. It is my most treasured possession. Alita slowly turns toward Sihan. Her face says everything. Your fan is weird. The nun stands again. Completely serious now. I serve you, Lord Sihan. Not the king. Not the kingdom. Which means the man who came to hunt them has just switched sides. Sihan exhales slowly, because somehow the situation just became even stranger. But before he can say anything, Sihan's expression suddenly changes. He turns toward the forest, listening. Then he mutters something that immediately wipes the humor out of the moment. We have a problem. Sihan follows his gaze. The trees ahead begin shaking. Heavy footsteps crush branches. And then, something massive pushes its way out of the darkness. A wolf, but bigger than the last one. Much bigger. Its fur burns brighter. Its body is scarred. And its eyes lock directly onto Sihan. Sihan speaks quietly. Plain wolves travel in pairs. One male. One female. The one Sihan killed earlier was the male. Which means the creature slowly stepping into the clearing right now is the female. And judging by the fury burning in its eyes, she knows exactly who killed her mate. The ground trembles as the giant wolf lowers its body, preparing to attack. The hunters slowly back away, because this monster feels even more dangerous than the last one. Sihan draws his sword. Alita tightens her grip, and Sihan hissizes, because apparently, the night's fight isn't over yet. The giant wolf doesn't hesitate. The moment it steps into the clearing, lightning cracks across its fur. Not fire. Not heat. Lightning. Blue arcs snap through the air as the enormous female wolf lowers its body and growls at the humans in front of it. The hunters immediately understand something terrifying. This isn't just another alpha. This one is stronger. Much stronger. Sihan steps forward first. His sword slides from its sheath with a sharp metallic sound. Because earlier, he declared something. He said he serves Sihan. But words alone mean nothing. Not to a knight. If he truly wants to stand beside the legendary hero, then he has to prove it. Sihan tightens his grip on the blade. Leave this one to me. Before anyone can stop him, he launches forward. Fast. His footwork explodes across the ground as he closes the distance with the massive wolf in seconds. The monster roars and swipes. Sihan ducks under the claws. His sword flashes upward. A clean strike aims straight for the beast's throat. But the wolf moves faster than expected. Its body twists mid-swing, and lightning erupts. A violent arc explodes outward from its fur. Crack. The lightning slams directly into Sihan's chest. His body freezes, then launches backward across the clearing like a rag doll. He crashes into the dirt and rolls several meters before finally stopping. Smoke rises from his armor. His sword falls from his hand. Sihan tries to stand, but his legs refuse to move. The hunters watching from behind feel their stomachs drop. If someone like Sihan couldn't even land a proper hit, then what chance do they have? The wolf slowly steps forward again, lightning crackling along its body. Its eyes burn with rage. It hasn't forgotten the scent of the man who killed its mate. Sihan exhales slowly. Figures. He steps forward. Sihan struggles to speak. Don't underestimate it, but Sihan already heard enough. He's fought monsters far worse than this. And there's one thing he's always relied on. magic. For years during the war, enemy mages tried everything they could. Fire, ice, lightning. None of it worked. Because Sihan's body developed something strange. A natural resistance. Magic simply didn't affect him. Which means lightning shouldn't be a problem. The wolf charges. Sihan doesn't dodge. Lightning explodes across the monster's body as it leaps straight toward him. Then the bolt strikes. For a split second, everything goes white. Then pain hits. Real pain. Sihan's body jolts as electricity rips through his muscles. His eyes widen. Because that wasn't supposed to happen. He stumbles back slightly, smoke rising from his shoulder. The hunters stare in disbelief. Even Sihan looks confused. Because for the first time in years, magic actually hurt him. The wolf lands heavily, and prepares to attack again. Lightning crackles louder. But now Sihan's expression changes. The confusion fades, replaced by something colder, more focused. Because if magic suddenly works on him now, then that means one thing. His body really is weaker than he thought. Much weaker. The wolf lunges again. But this time Sihan moves. His foot slams into the ground. The earth cracks slightly beneath the pressure. His muscles tighten. All the strength he has left gathers into one single motion. A punch. Simple. Direct. But terrifying. His fist drives forward like a falling mountain. Boom. The impact shakes the entire clearing. The wolf's body bends around the strike as the force slams straight through its ribs. The monster flies backward and crashes into the forest behind it. Trees snap. Dirt explodes. And when the dust finally settles, the giant wolf doesn't move again. Silence spreads through the clearing. No one cheers. No one speaks. Because what they just witnessed didn't look human. Sihan slowly lowers his arm, breathing steady. But inside, his thoughts are racing. Magic hurt him. That changes things. A lot. Later, back in the city, the hunters receive their reward. 600 silver for the successful hunt. Not bad. But Zenon arrives with something even more ridiculous. A pouch filled with gold coins. 1,000 gold. Alita nearly chokes. Where did that come from? Sihan answers proudly. As old one of the relics from my collection. Sihan squints. What relic? Sihan smiles. The cloth relic. Sihan stares at him. You sold my underwear. Sihan nods proudly. To a collector. Sihan sighs deeply. Somehow that's the least insane thing that's happened today. But once the laughter fades, the mood shifts again. Because Sihan is thinking about the lightning, about the weakening of his body, about the enemies waiting in this world. 6 heroes, 6 rulers, 6 kingdoms. Fighting all of them at once would be suicide. So instead, he chooses a different approach. Sihan looks toward the northern horizon, and quietly says the next move out loud. We go north. Alita tilts her head. Why north? Sihan's eyes narrow slightly. Because among the 6 rulers who betrayed him, one of them stands out. The weakest one. The easiest target. If revenge is coming, that's where it starts. Somewhere inside a dark castle, a king is losing patience. King Rilstein sits on his throne, staring coldly at the trembling mage kneeling before him. Mage Tram doesn't dare look up. Because the king's voice is calm. Too calm. Fine subject 1. The words echo through the chamber. No explanation. No negotiation. Just an order. The mage swallows nervously. Because both of them know what that name means. Subject 1. A failed experiment. A monster they were never supposed to lose control of. But now it's out there. Somewhere. And if Tranum fails to capture it again, Rilstein finishes the sentence for him. You will lose your position. A pause. Then the king adds something colder. Or your life. The mage bows his head instantly. Because when a king speaks like that, it's not a warning. It's a countdown. Far away from the throne room, another kingdom is dealing with a very different problem. Inside the halls of Exiled Kingdom, a magistrate slams a stack of documents onto a table. His face is red with frustration. Another hunting expedition. The officials around him exchange awkward glances. Because everyone knows the truth. King Runberg of Exiled doesn't care about ruling anymore. Taxes pile up. Borders weaken. Villages struggle. But their king, he's obsessed with one thing. Monsters. Hunting them. Collecting them. Studying them. While the kingdom slowly rots, the magistrate rubs his temples. Because if things keep going like this, Exiled won't need enemies. It will collapse on its own. And right now, someone is quietly planning to take advantage of exactly that. Deep inside the northern city of Rudengel, Three travelers stand in front of a massive abandoned mansion. The building looks terrible. Dust everywhere. Broken windows. Half the roof collapsing. Alita stares up at the building. This is our base. Sihan steps forward proudly. Sihan glances at the mansion once. Then shrugs. Works for me. Alita turns to him immediately. Wait. That's it. But Sihan is already walking toward the door. Because compared to the battlefields he survived during the war, this place looks like a luxury hotel. The door cracks open. Dust explodes into the air. Cobwebs stretch across every corner. The entire house smells like it hasn't been touched in years. Sihan looks around slowly. Then his eyes begin to shine. Because to him, this isn't a ruined mansion. This is a project. What follows can only be described as madness. Sihan grabs a broom. Then another. Then 3 buckets. Then cleaning cloths. Then tools. And suddenly, the knight who fought monsters yesterday transforms into a cleaning demon. Dust flies out the windows. Furniture gets dragged across rooms. Broken wood gets repaired. The entire mansion shakes with the sound of aggressive cleaning. Alita watches in disbelief. Is he always like this? Sihan sits calmly on a dusty chair. Pretty much. Hours pass. Then finally, Sihan steps back proudly. The mansion is spotless. Floors polished. Windows clean. Furniture arranged neatly. It almost looks like a noble's residence again. Sihan wipes sweat from his forehead. Perfect. Alita blinks. Why did you care that much? Sihan answers instantly. Because this is Lord Sihan's base. Of course. Sihan sighs quietly. But once the strange cleaning frenzy ends, the atmosphere slowly shifts. Because the mansion isn't just a place to sleep. It's a headquarters. A starting point. The first step of something much bigger. Sihan walks toward the large map Sihan placed on the table. His finger moves slowly across the continent. 6 kingdoms. 6 rulers. 6 people who betrayed him. Fighting them all at once would be suicide. But taking them down one by one. That's different. His finger finally stops. Morph. Right on the border of a struggling kingdom. Exiled. The weakest among the 6. The most unstable. And the one ruled by Cain who's too busy hunting monsters to notice what's happening around him. Sihan taps the map once. Sihan and Alita look up. And Sihan calmly announces the next move. Our first target. A quiet pause. Then the name falls like a stone. King Runberg of Exiled. And just like that, the revenge of the betrayed hero officially begins. The plan is begun. Inside the newly claimed mansion in Rotenjal, Sihan stands over a massive map spread across the table. 6 kingdoms. 6 rulers. 6 traitors. Sihan leans against the wall while explaining the situation like a loyal strategist briefing his commander. This world is balanced between 6 powers. His finger taps different regions across the map. Each one controlled by a hero who once fought beside Sihan. Each one ruling a kingdom carved from the ruins of the Luslan Empire. But the balance isn't stable. Wars have already started breaking out between them. Sihan points toward the west. The Kigan War nearly shattered the balance recently. Different kingdoms testing each other. Border conflicts. Political games. Everyone pretending to maintain peace, while secretly preparing for the next war. Which means if someone strikes carefully, the entire structure could collapse. Sihan listens quietly. Not surprised. Because he knows these people. He fought beside them long enough to understand exactly how they think. They didn't just betray him for power. They betrayed him because they feared what he could become. And now, he intends to prove they were right to be afraid. But right now, revenge isn't a priority. Preparation is. Across the room, Alita struggles with something much less dramatic. Her face is twisted in concentration. Sihan stands behind her with his arms folded. Again. Alita exhales. Then tries once more. Mana gathers in her palm. But the energy immediately flickers and collapses. She groans. This doesn't make sense. Sihan tilts his head slightly. Because what he's teaching her isn't normal magic. It's a rare technique. Something almost no one in this world can use properly. The technique of 1,000 faces. A method of manipulating energy so precisely that a person can disguise their presence, alter their aura, and even fool detection spells. In a world where powerful people track each other through mana signatures, this ability is priceless. But there's a problem. Most people can only control one form of energy. Either magic or battle energy. Never both. Except Sihan. Because Sihan wasn't born in this world. He was summoned. An earth-born otherworlder. Which means his body interacts with energy differently. He can control both. and that rare ability lets him perform techniques that would normally be impossible. Unfortunately, teaching it to someone else is much harder. Alita tries again. The energy forms for half a second, then collapses again. Sihan sighs. We'll work on it later. But before they can continue, a scream echoes from outside. Then another. Sihan immediately looks toward the window. Something is wrong. Very wrong. When they step outside the mansion, the entire street is already in chaos. People are running, shouting, pointing toward the city gates. Because something is pouring into the streets. Creatures. Dozens of them. Massive wolf-like monsters with jagged teeth and twisted limbs. Lihukans. Normally they hunt in small packs deep in the wilderness. But today, they were everywhere. Charging through the streets. Tearing through market stalls. Attacking civilians. A man falls. Another barely escapes. The city guard tries to form a defense, but the monsters move too fast. Alita draws her sword instantly. We have to help. Sihan hesitates. Just for a moment. Because helping means attention. Attention means rumors. And rumors lead to dangerous questions. But then he sees something. A small child frozen in the middle of the street. A Lycan sprinting directly toward them. And Sihan moves. The monster leaps. Then suddenly its body slams into the ground. Hard. A single strike. Sihan's blade flashes. Another Lycan falls. Alita jumps forward to protect the civilians. Within seconds the three of them are fighting side by side. Monsters drop one after another. People escape. The chaos slowly begins to stabilize. Until suddenly, a loud voice echoes across the street. Stop. Heavy armored knights march forward. Their armor carries the crest of Exiled Kingdom. And instead of thanking the people who just saved the civilians, they surround them. Blades drawn. Sihan's hand tightens on his sword. Because this doesn't look like gratitude. It looks like an arrest. Then the knights suddenly step aside. A carriage rolls slowly down the destroyed street. Its door opens. A tall man steps out calmly. Slow. Confident. Completely unfazed by the chaos around him. Sihan immediately recognizes him. And whispers under his breath. King Runberg. The very target Sihan just chose. Standing right in front of them. Smiling. The streets of Rodenjol are still covered in claw marks. Broken stalls. Scattered weapons. And the bodies of dead Lycans. Right in the middle of that destruction, a king steps forward like he's walking onto a stage. King Runberg of Exiled. The knights surrounding him immediately form a wide circle, pushing the civilians back. Runberg stretches his shoulders slightly, then looks at the remaining Lycans rushing through the street. He doesn't draw a sword. He doesn't shout orders. Instead, he raises one hand. And the air changes. Battle energy gathers instantly around his palm, compressing into something massive. The ground trembles. People stop breathing. Then, a gigantic spectral hand forms above the street. A towering construct made of pure battle energy. Runberg flicks his wrist downward. Boom. The massive hand slams into the charging Lycans like a falling mountain. The street explodes. Stone cracks. Dust erupts into the sky. And when the smoke clears, the monsters are gone. Crushed flat beneath the invisible force. The crowd erupts immediately. Cheers explode across the street. Long live King Runberg. Our hero. Did you see that? Runberg smiles modestly. Almost humbly. Like this entire performance wasn't carefully planned. But across the street, Sihan watches silently. His eyes narrow slightly. Because something about this feels wrong. Too perfect. Too convenient. A sudden monster attack. Right when the king happens to arrive. Right when a massive crowd is watching. And right when he can show off a powerful ability in front of everyone. Sihan mutters quietly. Stage. Alita looks at him. What? But Sihan doesn't answer. Because he's already piecing things together. Runberg isn't here to save people. He's here to remind them who their hero is. The public image. Political control. A carefully crafted performance. And judging by the way the knights arrived exactly on time, this wasn't a coincidence. It was a show. Runberg turns slightly as his eyes pass over Sihan's group. For a moment, their gazes almost meet. Then the king turns away. The crowd continues cheering as his knights escort him back to the carriage. The hero of Exiled rides away, leaving behind a city that now worships him even more than before. But Sihan just watches the carriage disappear. Because if Runberg is already manipulating events like this, then removing him won't be simple. Which means the plan needs time. 10 days pass. Inside the mansion, the atmosphere changes completely. Training begins. Alita stands in the courtyard again. mana flowing around her body. This time, it holds. The energy wraps around her aura like a second skin. Sihan nods slightly. The technique of 1,000 faces. For the first time, she actually succeeds. Her presence becomes harder to detect. More controlled. Less noticeable. Alita grins. Across the yard, Zenon is dealing with a much less graceful training session. Sihan knocks him flat again. And again. And again. Zenon crawls back to his feet every time. Determined. Relentless. Because in his mind, if he's going to follow Sihan into war, he needs to become stronger. Much stronger. But while their training improves, something strange begins spreading through the region. Rumors. A strange cult. A group calling themselves the Dimension Clan. Fanatics who worship someone they call a divine savior. A hero who fell from the sky. A warrior who will return to reshape the world. Alita tilts her head when she hears the rumors. That sounds suspiciously like. Sihan raises a hand. Dawned. Because the last thing he needs right now is a cult worshipping his name. Unfortunately, the rumors spread fast. Fast enough that the Exiled kingdom finally decides to act. A large expedition is announced. Soldiers, knights, adventurers, all gathering for a single mission. Destroy the Dimension Clan. Zenon reads the notice posted in the city square, then turns towards Sihan. Should we join? Sihan thinks for a moment. Something about this situation feels strange. A cult suddenly appearing. A large expedition forming. And the timing, right after Rumberg's stage monster attack. Pieces are moving behind the scenes. Pieces he can fully see yet. Which means there's only one way to understand what's happening. Step into the middle of it. Sihan folds the notice and slips it into his coat. Yeah. We were joining. But far away from the city, inside a hidden laboratory, Mage Trinum quietly watches a magical projection. The expedition gathering. The soldiers marching. Everything unfolding exactly as planned. He smiles faintly. Because the mission isn't really about destroying a cult. It's about something much more important. Luring something out. Something powerful. Something dangerous. Something they call Subject 1. The cult doesn't pray. It bleeds. Deep inside a hidden ritual chamber, torches flicker wildly as a group of rogue followers kneel in a massive magic circle. Their leader, Eren, raises a blade toward the sky. His voice trembles with excitement. Today, we awaken the divine beast. The followers don't hesitate. One by one, they step forward and offer their lives. Blood spills across the ritual circle as Eren scatters black ash into the air, ash made from something far darker than ordinary magic. The burned hearts of Luslan descendants. The moment the ashes hit the ground, the circle ignites. Mana surges violently, and somewhere deep underground, something massive stirs. Meanwhile, far away from the cult's ritual, a long expedition marches through the forest. Soldiers, knights, mercenaries, hundreds of fighters gathered under one banner. Their mission sounds simple. Destroy the Dimension Clan. But as the group sets up camp beneath the Dark Force canopy, it becomes obvious that simple isn't the right word. Mercenaries argue around the fire. Knights keep their distance. Everyone is watching everyone else. Because when you throw together soldiers from different factions, trust disappears fast. Right in the middle of that tense atmosphere, Zenon is doing something completely unexpected. Cooking. A large pot bubbles over the fire while the knight stirs it carefully. Mercenaries approach cautiously. Then someone takes a bite. Silence. Then another. And another. Suddenly the entire camp gathers around the pot. Because somehow, Zenon is an incredible cook. Within minutes the tension across the camp drops dramatically. Mercenaries laugh. Soldiers relax. Even the usually cold Black Lion knights begin eating quietly. Alita stares at the scene. Your night is weird. Sihan shrugs. He's sufficient. Because in a strange way, Zenon just solved a problem Sihan didn't want to deal with. A unified camp fights better than a divided one. But just as the atmosphere begins to calm, the sky suddenly darkens. Clouds roll in fast. Wind cuts through the trees. Then, rain. Heavy rain. Within minutes the forest becomes a muddy, storm-soaked mess. Lightning flashes across the sky. The campfire flickers. And that's when something moves in the trees. At first it's just a shadow. Then another. Then dozens. Eyes glowing in the darkness. A mercenary shoves. Enemies, creatures burst from the forest. Demons. Twisted bodies. Black claws. Monstrous jaws. They crash into the camp like a tidal wave. Soldiers scramble for weapons. Tents collapse. People scream. The rain turns the battlefield into chaos. But something about these demons is Wrong. They charge without hesitation, without fear, without instinct. One demon takes a sword straight through its chest and keeps fighting. Another loses an arm and still lunges forward. The mercenaries panic, because creatures like this shouldn't behave that way. Even demons feel pain. Even monsters retreat when wounded. But these things, they fight like puppets. Sihan steps forward calmly. His eyes scan the battlefield, watching carefully, calculating. Then the realization hits him. They were controlled. Not natural. Not wild. Someone is controlling them with magic. Which explains something even stranger. Demons hate rain. Their bodies weaken in heavy storms. Yet these ones attack during the downpour. Which means the controller forcing them to fight must be incredibly powerful. Sihan raises his voice. Form defensive lines. The nearby mercenaries instinctively listen. Shields in front, cut their legs, donned waist strikes on the torso. The fighters reorganize quickly. Chaos turns into formation. Demons begin falling, one after another. Because without surprise, the monsters aren't nearly as dangerous. From the edge of the battlefield, a group of armored knights watches closely. The Black Lion Knights, elite warriors. And they aren't watching the demons. They were watching Sihan. The way he reads the battlefield. The way he reorganizes strangers into an army. The way the entire camp instinctively follows his commands. One knight mutters quietly. Who is that man? But far beyond the battlefield, inside the hidden ritual chamber, Aelrin smiles. Because the chaos spreading through the forest is only the beginning. The sacrifices are working. The ritual is awakening something far worse than demons. Something ancient. Something massive. Something that will soon answer the call of the ashes made from Luslan blood. And when it rises, the entire expedition will finally understand the truth. They were never here to hunt a cult. They were here to wake a dragon. Rain pours across the forest. This blood, broken tents, and the bodies of controlled demons scattered across the battlefield. The expedition survives, but barely. Mercenaries sit exhausted near dying fires while soldiers drag corpses away. The storm hasn't stopped, and the forest feels wrong. Too quiet again. Sihan walks slowly through the aftermath, watching the fallen monsters carefully. Something bothers him. These demons fought until their bodies literally collapsed. No retreat. No hesitation. That's not natural. Demons may be brutal, but they still value survival. These ones didn't. Which means one thing. Someone forced them to fight. Sihan crouches beside one of the corpses, setting the black veins spreading across its skin. Mind control, he mutters. Alita crosses her arms. So someone's commanding monsters. Not just monsters, Sihan replies quietly. He looks toward the dark forest. Something stronger. Across the camp, several figures are watching him closely. The Black Lion Knights. Elite warriors who normally ignore mercenaries completely. But tonight they've been paying attention. Because the stranger who reorganized their collapsing camp just saved hundreds of lives. Eventually one of the knights approaches. His expression is calm, but serious. E3. Sihan looks up. Come with yes. The knight doesn't explain why. But something about the tone makes it clear. This isn't a request. Sihan immediately stands. Alita glances at Sihan. He simply shrugs. Let's see what they want. They were escorted to the far edge of the expedition camp. Not to the command tent. Further, toward a smaller cluster of guarded weapons. Inside one of them, several mages are waiting. Powerful ones. Their robes carry the insignia of the Ivory Tower. And standing among them is a nobleman Sihan noticed earlier. Count Keltron. The man who behaved strangely during the demon attack. Keltron watches Sihan carefully as they enter. Almost like he's evaluating something. Then the lead mage finally speaks. You deserve to know the truth. Alita frowns. The truth about what? The mage exhales slowly. About this expedition. Because the official mission, the one posted in the city, destroy the Dimension Clan cult. That was never the real objective. The cult exists. But they were just noise. A distraction. The real target is something else. Something the Ivory Tower has been secretly trying to recover. For months. The mage lifts a sealed scroll and places it on the table. When it opens, a detailed diagram appears. A creature. Massive. Scaled. Ancient. Alita's eyes widen. A dragon. The mage nods slowly. A great earth dragon. But not a normal one. This dragon is part of an experiment. Years ago, a rogue mage from the Blue Ivory Tower began illegal research. Experiments combining dragon biology with magical control systems. The goal? create a living weapon capable of commanding other beasts, an apex monster that could control entire ecosystems. The project failed. Or at least, that's what everyone thought. Because the experimental creature escaped. And now it's somewhere inside this forest. Controlling monsters. Controlling demons. Building an army. Suddenly everything makes sense. The demon attack. The cult sacrifices. The strange monster behavior. All of it connected. But one detail still bothers Sihan. He looks at the diagram again. Then asks quietly. If this creature escaped months ago, why send the expedition now? The mages exchange uncomfortable glances. Because the answer isn't simple. Or clean. Finally Count Keltron speaks. Because recently, he pauses. It started evolving. The rune goes silent. An experimental dragon. Capable of controlling monsters. Growing stronger. Adapting. And somewhere out there in the storm-covered forest, that creature is waiting. Sihan studies the map on the table. The dragon's predicted territory. The monster migration patterns. The cult locations. Pieces of a much larger puzzle. And slowly, a realization forms in his mind. This expedition wasn't organized to hunt the creature. It was organized to draw it out. To force the dragon to reveal itself. Which means every soldier in this forest. Every mercenary. Every knight. Is baked. Sihan leans back slightly. Because suddenly this mission became much more dangerous than anyone expected. Somewhere in the darkness of the forest, the dragon is watching. And very soon, it's going to attack. The deeper the expedition moves into the forests, the more wrong everything feels. Sihan walks near the center of the formation, quiet, watching the trees. The conversation from the secret briefing still echoes in his mind. An experimental dragon. A beast capable of controlling monsters. And an expedition designed not to hunt it, but to force it out. Which means something very simple. At any moment, this entire army could become prey. Ahead of them, a small mountain village appears between the trees. Smoke rises from chimneys. Wooden houses stand quietly along a muddy road. The villagers look nervous, but welcoming. Too welcoming. Sihan slows slightly. His eyes scan the area. Doors half open. Villagers standing too still. Something is wrong. Before he can say anything, Alita suddenly grabs his sleeve. Wait. Her voice is barely a whisper. But Sihan stops immediately. Because Alita has been learning something important. The technique of 1,000 faces. And that technique sharpened her awareness of energy around her. Right now, she feels something. Puzzle. Hidden. All around them. Behind the houses, she whispers. The moment the words leave her mouth, the villagers move. Blows tear. Weapons appear. Hidden blades flash. They weren't villagers. They were cultists. The attackers rush forward all at once. But Sihan's group is already ready. Sinan draws his sword in a single smooth motion. Alita pivots and strikes first. Steel flashes through the air. 2 cultists drop instantly. Another lunges at Sihan. Big mistake. Sihan's fist moves once. The cultist collapses like his bones just disappeared. Within seconds the ambush fails. Bodies hit the ground. Silence returns. Alita exhales slowly. That was obvious. But Sihan isn't celebrating. Because something else is happening. All across the village, shouting erupts. Other cultists reveal themselves. Turkeys fly. Doors explode open. Cages hidden inside the houses suddenly burst apart. And from those cages, monsters. Dozens of them. Massive beasts from the surrounding mountains. Bears. Wolves. Scaled predators. All released at once. The village instantly turns into chaos. Knights shout orders. Mercenaries scramble for weapons. Preachers rampage through the streets. This wasn't an ambush. It was a trap. The cultists aren't even trying to win. They are just stalling. Buying time. And then the ground trembles. At first it's subtle. Just a vibration beneath the soil. Then it grows stronger. Stronger. Until houses begin shaking. A deep rumbling echoes through the mountains. Sihan's eyes narrow. Because he knows exactly what that means. Something huge is moving. A knight nearby shouts. What the hell is that? The forest explodes. Trees snap like toothpicks as something massive pushes through the mountain slope above the village. A giant shape emerges through the dust. Stone-colored scales. A body the size of a fortress. Eyes glowing with ancient fury. The great earth dragon. The experiment. The creature controlling the monsters. And now it's here. The entire battlefield freezes. Because no one expected it to appear so soon. The dragon's massive head turns slowly. observing the tiny humans below like insects. Then its eyes flash. Every beast in the village suddenly stops fighting. Their bodies stiffen. Then they turn. All of them. Toward the expedition soldiers. At once. The dragon didn't just arrive. It took command. Hundreds of monsters now move as one army. A knight screams. Form ranks. But panic is spreading faster than the orders. The dragon opens its massive mouth and releases a roar that shakes the mountains. And then, it attacks. Chaos erupts instantly. Knights clash with monsters. Mercenaries scatter. Entire buildings collapse as the dragon's tail smashes through the village. In the middle of the destruction, a young girl trips and falls while trying to escape. A monster lunges toward her. She screams. But before the creature reaches her, something hits it. Hard. The beast flies sideways across the street. Sihan stands between the girl and the monster. He glances back briefly. You okay? The girl nods quickly, terrified. Her name is Tuna. And without realizing it, she just stepped into the battlefield of a dragon. Behind Sihan, the chaos grows worse. Knights are being overwhelmed. Monsters keep coming. And above them all, the great earth dragon watches. Like a king observing his army. Because the cult didn't just release monsters. They awakened a creature capable of commanding every beast in the mountains. And right now, that army belongs to the dragon. The battlefield turns into pure chaos. Monsters charge through burning houses. Knights scream orders. And above all of it, the great earth dragon watches. Its massive body towers over the shattered village, scales like living stone, eyes glowing with ancient power. But something strange is happening. Sihan notices it first. Because the monsters that were attacking moments ago are gone. Not dead. Not defeated. Gone. They ran. The moment the dragon appeared, every beast scattered like prey fleeing from a predator. Sihan mutters quietly. So that's how it works. The dragon doesn't just command monsters. Its presence alone terrifies them. Which means the creature, at the top of this food chain, is the dragon itself. And right now, that dragon is staring directly at the expedition army. Then the ground explodes. The dragon slams its tail into the battlefield. Stone shatters. Entire buildings collapse. Knights scatter as debris rains across the village. One squad of elite soldiers immediately steps forward. The Black Lion Knights. Their commander raises his sword. Formation, the knights slam their shields into the ground. Mana surges across their armor. And suddenly a glowing barrier erupts around them. Iron Wall, the defensive technique activates instantly. The dragon's next attack crashes into the barrier. And stops. The impact shakes the ground, but the knights hold the line. Another group moves behind them. Blades glowing with concentrated battle energy. The commander points forward. Annihilation. The knights charge together in perfect synchronization. Their combined strikes lands directly into the dragon's massive leg. The explosion of energy shakes the battlefield. Dust erupts. Stone cracks. For a moment, it actually looks like they heard it. But when the dust clears, the dragon is still standing. Barely scratched. The knights freeze. Because if a full squad of elite fighters couldn't injure it, then this battle is already hopeless. Meanwhile, near the back of the battlefield, someone is panicking. Count Kalterin. The nobleman stumbles backward, eyes wide with fear. A dragon. We weren't told about a dragon. He turns as if preparing to run. But before he can, thud. Dina punches him straight in the face. The count drops instantly. Everyone nearby stares. Dina dusts off her hands. Like he was getting annoying. Sihan blinks slowly. Sihan doesn't even question it. Because right now they have bigger problems. The dragon lifts its massive head again. Battle energy surges through its body. It's preparing another attack. If that strike lands, half the expedition could die instantly. Sihan steps forward. Alita and Zenon follow. The three of them move straight toward the battlefield's center. Zenon draws his sword. Alita grips her blade tightly. And Sihan quietly studies the dragon's movements. Left flank, he says calmly. Zenon nods. They split instantly. Zenon attacks first. His sword flashes through the air with deadly precision, striking at the dragon's exposed scales. Alita follows. Her blade carves across the creature's flank. Then Sihan moves. His fist slams forward with brutal force. The impact sends shockwaves through the dragon's massive body. For a moment, the giant creature actually recoils. Its head jerks slightly. But then something strange happens. The dragon suddenly freezes. Its glowing eyes lock onto Sihan. Then shift to Alita. Then Zenon. Its pupils narrow. And suddenly, the The dragon roars. But not in anger. In pain. The massive creature recoils violently, stumbling backward like something just burned it. Everyone freezes. Because nothing on the battlefield should be capable of hurting it. Yet the dragon looks disturbed. Almost frightened. Its eyes remain locked on Sihan's group. The three of them. Their blood. Something about them is wrong. The dragon lets out one final thunderous roar, then suddenly spreads its massive wings. And retreats. The enormous creature launches into the sky, smashing through the clouds before disappearing into the mountains. Silence spreads across the ruined village. The knights stare upward. Mercenaries collapse to the ground in exhaustion. No one understands what just happened. Why the dragon retreated. Why it suddenly stopped fighting. But Sihan already has a theory. He looks at the blood running from a small cut on his hand. Then glances at Alita. Lustland blood. Otherworlder blood. Something about the two together triggered a reaction. The dragon didn't flee because it lost. It fled because something about them terrified it. And that means one thing. The next time that creature appears, it won't come alone. It will come prepared to kill them first. Deep inside the mountains, the ritual collapses. Cult leader Lekran stands inside the dragon's cavern, shaking as he scatters the final powder into the air. Ash made from Rustland hearts. The same cursed ingredient they used to control the beasts. But something goes wrong. The powder burns too bright. The ritual circle trembles. And suddenly the creature beneath the cavern floor wakes up fully. Stone cracks. The ground shakes. A massive eye opens in the darkness. The great earth dragon is no longer half controlled. It's awake. Truly awake. Lekran panics and tries to complete the command spell. But the dragon slowly turns its enormous head toward him. For a moment, silence. Then the dragon opens its mouth. Lekran doesn't even have time to scream. One bite. The cult leader disappears. Just like that. The creature they tried to control has decided something very simple. No one controls it. Meanwhile, the expedition pushes deeper into the mountains. Broken armor. Exhausted soldiers. Everyone knows they were heading toward the dragon's territory now. Even the air feels heavier. But one man is especially nervous. Count Keltarin. The noble rides near the center of the formation, constantly looking around. Sweating. Muttering. Why are we going deeper? This wasn't part of the plan. Every roar echoing through the mountains makes him flinch. Because unlike the knights around him, Keltarin knows exactly how dangerous this mission really is. Then finally the forest opens. And they see it. A massive cavern carved into the mountainside. The dragon's lair. Smoke slowly drifts from the entrance. The knights tighten their grip on their weapons. Because everyone feels the same thing. The monster is inside. The Black Lion Knights step forward first. Their commander raises his sword. We attack together. Behind them, the mages, known as Magians, begin chanting. Powerful spell circles ignite across the ground. Mana floods the air. The attack begins. Magic erupts like a storm. Flames. Lightning. Ace. Dozens of high-level spells launch straight into the cavern. For a moment, the mountainside explodes in light. The explosion shakes the entire valley. Dust fills the air. The knights prepare to charge. Because if the dragon took that much magic head-on, it should at least be wounded. But when the smoke clears, the creature steps out, completely unharmed. Its scales shimmer faintly. The magic simply vanish. One of the Magians whispers in horror. Magic nullification. The experiment didn't just create a monster. It created a creature that rejects magic entirely. The dragon opens its mouth. And the air changes. A deep glow builds in its throat. The knights realize too late. Move. The dragon exhales. Not fire. Something worse. A torrent of blazing earth energy erupts forward like a volcanic explosion. The blast slams into the expedition lines. Armor melts. Shields shatter. Entire squads are thrown across the battlefield. The Black Lion Knights, the strongest soldiers present, are smashed backward like toys. Magians collapse as their spell circles shatter instantly. The battlefield turns into chaos. The expedition's strongest forces are getting crushed. Sihan grips his sword tighter. Alita stares in disbelief. Because if even elite knights can stop it, then what chance does anyone have? Sihan watches quietly from behind the shattered formation. His eyes follow the dragon's movements. The breath attacks. The scale structure. The magic resistance. The raw physical power. Everything about the creature screams the same thing. This is not a normal monster. This is a disaster-level beast. And right now, the army meant to defeat it is collapsing. Knights retreat. Magians fall back. The expedition is about to break. Sihan exhales slowly. because he already knows what this means. If the army runs, the dragon will chase. Thousands will die. Villages will be destroyed. Cities might fall, which leaves only one option. Sihan steps forward. Sinan immediately notices. My lord. Alita turns. Wait, but Sihan is already walking toward the battlefield. Calm. Steady. Because sometimes, even when you were trying to stay hidden, there's no one else left who can win the fight. And the moment the dragon lifts its head again, Sihan finally decides. It's time to stop holding back. The expedition is collapsing. Knights are scattered across the battlefield. Magens lie unconscious. And at the center of the destruction stands the great earth dragon, a living mountain, its scales glowing with ancient power. Its magic nullifying body shrugs off every spell. Its breath attack melts armor like wax. Every second the monster remains alive, the expedition gets closer to total annihilation. The dragon raises its head again. Energy gathers inside its throat. Another breath attack is coming. And when that one lands, there may be no one left to fight. Then someone steps forward. Slow. Calm. Unhurried. Sun. Sinan notices immediately. My lord. But Sihan doesn't stop walking. Because he already knows something very simple. No one else here can kill that thing. The dragon notices him too. Its glowing eyes narrow. Almost recognizing something. Sihan exhales quietly. Then, releases something he's been holding back. The air changes instantly. A pressure spreads across the battlefield like the weight of a falling mountain. Knights turn. Magens freeze. Even the dragon pauses. Because what they're feeling right now is battle aura. But not ordinary battle aura. This is something older. Something heavier. Something that feels like the earth itself just woke up. Heaven's breaking aura. Stone cracks beneath Sihan's feet. The ground trembles with every step he takes toward the dragon. Sinan stares in awe. Because this is the power he once witnessed on the battlefield years ago. The power of the man who shattered armies. The dragon roars and lunges forward. Massive claws swing down. Sihan moves. One step. The claws crash into empty ground. The earth explodes where he stood. Then, Sihan's fist strikes the dragon's leg. Boom. The impact echoes like thunder. For the first time since the battle began, the dragon staggers. A massive creature capable of crushing knights like insects just took a step back. Sihan rolls his shoulders. His voice is calm. Let's see how much you've evolved. The dragon roars again and releases its breath attack. A torrent of blazing earth energy surges toward him. But Sihan doesn't dodge. Instead, he plants his foot and unleashes the first technique, Prize of the Mountain. His aura explodes outward. The breath attack slams into the invisible force and splits apart. The shockwave tears through the battlefield like a hurricane. Dust and stone blast into the air. Then Sihan moves again. This time faster. Much faster. His body blurs across the battlefield. The dragon swings its tail. Hisses. Its claws slam down. Hiss again. Before the monster can react, Sihan appears directly beneath its chest. His fists move. Once. Twice. Then dozens of times in a blur of motion. 1,000 bursts. Each strike hits with the force of collapsing stone. Shockwaves explode across the dragon's body. Scales crack. Stone fragments fly. The monster roars in fury as its massive body begins losing balance. And then, Sihan jumps. He lands directly on the dragon's head. The creature thrashes wildly, trying to shake him off. But Sihan raises his fist one final time. All the energy in his body gathers into a single strike. Heaven's breaking aura concentrates into his arm. Then, he brings it down. Crack. The sound echoes across the mountains. The dragon's skull fractures. Its massive body collapses into the ground like a falling cliff. The entire battlefield goes silent. Dust slowly settles. Knights stare in disbelief. Because the impossible just happened. The gray earth dragon is dead. Sihan steps down from the corpse quietly. His breathing steady. His expression calm. But Zenon reacts instantly. He jumps forward before anyone else can speak. That was my brother. Everyone turns toward him. Zenon gestures dramatically towards Sihan. My reclusive older brother, he trained in the mountains for years. Very shy man. Sihan slowly turns his head. Zenon whispers quickly under his breath. Please go with it. The surrounding knights nod slowly. Honestly, none of them want to question what they just saw. A mysterious warrior who can kill dragons. Better not ask too many questions. The expedition slowly begins cleaning up the battlefield. The dragon corpse becomes the center of celebration. A disaster has been prevented. But Sihan isn't celebrating. Later that evening, he walks quietly toward a lone figure standing near the edge of the camp. Count Keltarin. The noble stares at the dragon's body in the distance. Sihan stops beside him. Neither speaks at first. Then Sihan finally says something simple. You recognized it. Keltarin doesn't look surprised. His eyes remain on the dragon. That aura. He slowly turns towards Sihan. The noble's voice lowers slightly. Only one man in history used power like that. A long silence follows. Then Keltarin smiles faintly. Not with fear. Not with hostility. With something else. Interest. Because the Count just realized something incredible. The legendary hero everyone believed was gone is standing right in front of him. The battlefield is quiet now. The dragon is dead. Smoke drifts slowly across the broken valley, while soldiers drag equipment through the mud and mages examine the enormous corpse of the great earth dragon. To the expedition, this is victory. To Sihan, it's something else entirely. A problem. Because the moment he released Heaven's breaking aura, even for a few seconds, someone noticed. And now that someone is standing beside him, Count Keltarin. The nobleman keeps staring at the dragon's corpse like he's still trying to process what happened. Finally he speaks. Quietly. There's only one man who fights like that. Sihan doesn't respond. The Count turns slowly. His eyes meet Sihan's. Sihan. The name hangs in the cold night air. The legendary hero. The man who was supposed to be gone forever. For a moment, neither of them moves. Sinan and Alita watch from a distance, both ready to intervene if things go wrong. Because right now there are only two possible outcomes. Keltarin exposes him. Or Sihan silences him. The Count suddenly drops to his knees. Part. As surrender. The words come out immediately. No hesitation. No pride. Sihan raises an eyebrow slightly. Keltarin lowers his head to the ground. My lord, please spare me. The noble's voice trembles slightly, but his words are clear. I understand now. You didn't die. You return. And you were going to hunt them. The 6 heroes who betrayed him. Keltarin lifts his head just enough to meet Sihan's eyes. Which means, the world is about to change again. Silence fills the air. Then Sihan finally speaks. You're smarter than you look. Keltarin forces a nervous smile. I prefer the word observant. He swallows. But also practical. Because right now the Count understands something very important. If Sihan really is back, then every kingdom built by the 6 heroes is standing on a ticking bomb. And Keltarin has no intention of being crushed when that bomb explodes. So he makes a choice. Right there in the mud. I will serve you. The words come out fast. I will provide information. Money. Political influence. Anything you need. His voice drops even lower. Just done to kill me. Alita watches the scene quietly. Sinan crosses his arms. Both of them know Sihan well enough to understand what he's thinking. Killing the Count would be easy. But keeping him alive could be far more useful. Sihan slowly walks forward. Keltarin doesn't move. Not even when Sihan stops directly in front of him. Then Sihan raises one hand. Battle aura gathers around his fingers. The Count's eyes widen slightly. You've heard of it, haven't you? Keltarin nods quickly. Because every noble in the continent knows the rumor. A terrifying ability once used by the legendary hero. Exploding aura. A technique that plants destructive energy directly inside a person's body. If the victim ever betrays the user, their heart explodes instantly. Keltarin's face turns pale. Sihan places his hand against the Count's chest. Energy pulses once. Then fades. Sihan steps back. It's done. Keltarin freezes. Slowly touching his chest. You implanted it. Sihan nods casually. Think of it as insurance. The noble swallows hard. Then bows even deeper. I understand. But the truth. Sihan didn't implant anything. Exploding aura doesn't exist. It's just a rumor he allowed the world to believe. A myth. A psychological weapon. And judging by the terrified look on Keltarin's face, it worked perfectly. The Count just became a loyal pawn. Later that night, inside their temporary camp, Alita sits beside the fire while Sihan studies a small pouch taken from the cultists. Inside it lies a strange black powder. The same substance used in the dragon ritual. Alita watches him carefully. That stuff, it controlled the dragon. Sihan shakes his head slowly. No, it helped control it. He rolls a small amount between his fingers. Which means someone created it. Someone with deep knowledge of magic. Someone willing to experiment on living creatures. Someone powerful. Sihan looks into the fire quietly. Because the more he sees of these strange monsters, the more one name keeps appearing. The Blue Ivory Tower. A secretive faction of mages known for pushing magical research far beyond ethical limits. Alita leans forward. So the cult, the dragon, the monsters, all connected. Sihan nods slowly. Looks that way. Which means this world has grown far more complicated while he was gone. 6 traitorous heroes ruling kingdoms. Secret mage factions experimenting with monsters. And hidden forces manipulating events from the shadows. Sihan stares into the flames. Thinking. Planning. Because revenge isn't something you rush. It's something you build carefully. And tonight he just placed his first political piece on the board. A frightened nobleman named Tyrant. A pawn. But sometimes, a pawn is all you need to start a rebellion. Far from the battlefield where the dragon died, a very different experiment is failing. Inside a hidden laboratory of the Blue Ivory Tower, a prisoner is chained to a stone table. Runes glow around the room. Mages watch silently. One of them carefully sprinkles a black powder across the prisoner's chest. The same substance the cult used. Heart's powder. The mage begins chanting. Anna floods the room. The prisoner's eyes turn blank. For a moment, it works. The man stands up slowly like a puppet. One mage smiles. Control successful. Then the prisoner suddenly screams. His body convulses violently. Veins bulge across his skin. The runes shatter. And the prisoner collapses, dead. Silence fills the laboratory. The lead mage sighs. Still imperfect. The powder can control monsters. Even dragons, temporarily. But humans, still unstable. Which means the experiment continues. Meanwhile, in a royal palace far away, someone is furious. King Exiled slams a goblet against the wall. Wine splashes across marble floors. You let it die. Count Tyrant stands stiffly before the throne, trying very hard not to look nervous. Because the man sitting on the throne isn't just any king. He's one of the 6 heroes. The same heroes who once fought beside Sihan to overthrow the Luslan Emperor. But the man ruling now looks nothing like the hero from those stories. Gold chains hang from his neck. Silk robes spill across the throne. Servants stand nearby holding trays of food and wine. King Exiled lounges lazily while glaring down at the counts. A 300-year-old drake, an experimental beast from the Ivory Tower, and you let mercenaries kill it. Tyrant bows his head. My king, the situation was, excuses. Exiled waves his hand dismissively. The king's voice is dripping with irritation. You nobles are all the same. Useless. The room falls silent again. Because everyone here knows something uncomfortable. The man sitting on the throne used to be a hero. A revolutionary. One of the warriors who overthrew a tyrant. But now, he's become exactly what they once fought against. Greedy. Cruel. Completely consumed by power. Finally Exiled leans back into his throne. Get out of my sight. Tyrant bows quickly. Yes, your majesty. But the moment the count leaves the throne room, his expression changes completely. The nervous fear disappears. Replaced by something calmer. Because this meeting was never about pleasing the king. It was about delivering information. Later that night, Tyrant arrived quietly at a secluded estate. Inside, someone is waiting. A knight stands near the window. Armor polished. Face calm. The count bows slightly. Lord Sihan. The knight turns. But the man standing there no longer looks like the legendary hero. New armor. Different posture. A new identity. From this point forward, Sihan officially becomes Tyrant's personal knight. Hidden inside the noble's household. Invisible to the outside world. The perfect position to watch the kingdom from the inside. Tyrant steps closer. The king believes the expedition simply failed. Sihan nods slowly. Good. The less attention he attracts right now, the better. Tyrant continues reporting everything he saw inside the palace. Tech is rising. Corruption spreading. Nobles competing for influence. And at the center of it all, King Exiled, living in luxury while his kingdom slowly decays. Sihan listens quietly. Because hearing the details confirms something he already suspected. The heroes who once promised to build a better world have completely forgotten why they fought. Alita sits nearby, listening carefully. Then she asks the obvious question. So what's the plan? Sihan walks toward the window, looking out over the distant lights of the city. Because revenge isn't enough. Killing them would be easy. Too easy. What he wants is something far worse. Slowly, he answers. I'm going to punish them. Alita tilts her head. How? Sihan's voice becomes colder. Worse than death. Because the 6 heroes didn't just betray him. They betrayed the world they promised to protect. And before he destroys them, Sihan plans to show them exactly what they've become. Inside the royal palace of Latenburg, shouting echoes through the halls. Prince Ain stands in the center of the throne room, fists clenched, staring directly at the man sitting above him. His father, King Exiled, one of the 6 legendary heroes who once helped to overthrow a tyrant. But the man on the throne now looks nothing like a hero. Gold rings cover his fingers. Wine spills across the floor beside him. Servants stand silently, while the king glares down at his son like an inconvenience. Ains doesn't bow. He doesn't lower his voice. People are starving outside the capital. The court freezes. No one talks to the king like that. But Ains continues anyway. Taxes keep rising. Nobles are bleeding the cities dry. And Yui sitting here doing nothing. The room feels like it's about to explode. Exiled slowly sets his wine cup down. The king's eyes darken. You dare lecture me? Ains doesn't flinch. You're the king. That's your job. For a moment, it almost looks like Exiled might laugh. Instead, crack. The throne room shakes as the king slams his fist into the armrest. Battle aura erupts violently from his body. Servants stumble backward. Guards grip their weapons. You know nothing about sacrifice. Exiled stands. His voice rises with years of buried bitterness. I fought wars you can't even imagine. I bled for this kingdom. I watched comrades die beside me. His eyes burn with something darker than anger. And now my own son thinks he understands what leadership means. Ains doesn't step back. But something changes in his expression. Because the rage pouring out of his father isn't pride. It's resentment. A man who believes the world owes him for the battles he fought. Exiled points at him. You worry about peasants while enemies surround us. If you ever sit on this throne. His voice drops into a cold whisper. This kingdom will fall. The room falls silent. Ains slowly lowers his gaze. But the disappointment on his face says more than any argument. The prince turns and walks out, leaving the king alone on his throne, and the court watching a kingdom quietly tearing itself apart from the inside. Meanwhile, far away from the palace, Sihan is settling into a very different kind of throne room. Count Keltaran's secret estate. The mansion hidden outside the capital is nothing like the abandoned house they used before. Marble floors, high ceilings, soft carpets, servants who never ask questions. Alta stares at the luxurious hall. This is ridiculous. Sinan looks equally stunned. But Sihan just shrugs. Keltaran is useful. The count appears from a nearby hallway and bows slightly. Your new base, my lord. Perfect. Because from here, Sihan can watch the kingdom without anyone realizing he's even present. But tonight he's not thinking about politics. He's teaching. Alta sits across from him at a large table covered with books and scrolls. Magic isn't just power, Sihan explains calmly. It's structure. He draws several symbols across a piece of paper. These are runes. The ancient language that magic uses to shape spells. Each rune represents a concept. Energy, movement, heat, space. Alta leans forward, studying the symbols carefully. Spells are built from these. Sihan nods. Think of them as blueprints. He draws several runes together into a larger diagram. This becomes a spell blueprint. Then he taps the center of the diagram. The blueprints don't activate by themselves. He writes a short phrase beside the circle. The initiating words. The trigger that releases the magic. Alta's eyes widen slightly. So every spell is basically a machine. Sihan finishes. A machine made of runes, energy, and intent. That's why mages rely on spell books. For built blueprints ready to activate. But Sihan never needed one. Because he can build spells directly in his mind. A rare skill. One he learned through years of survival. Alta practices reading the runes carefully. But as she works, Sihan suddenly goes quiet. Because something else has surfaced in his mind. A memory. Cold. Humiliating. A dim apartment. Rain hitting the windows. Sihan sitting alone on a cheap mattress. 10 years earlier. The moment he returned to Earth. Not as a hero. Not as a conqueror. Just a man thrown out of another world. Betrayed. Forgotten. And forced to start over from nothing. Alta looks up from the table. Sihan. He blinks once. The memory fades. But the feeling remains. That quiet anger. That promise he made to himself in that empty room. He would return. And when he did, the people who betrayed him would learn something very important. Sihan leans back in his chair, watching Alta carefully draw another rune. This time she gets it right. The symbol glows faintly. He nods slightly. Good. Because revenge isn't built in a single battle. It's built slowly, piece by piece. And tonight, he's preparing the next one. 10 years. That's how long Sung Sihan disappeared. Not dead. Not forgotten. Just thrown away. The moment the portal swallowed him, the legendary hero who defeated the Luslan Emperor didn't return to glory. He landed in a dark alley on Earth. Cold pavement. Police sirens. And a body that still carried the scars of another world. When officers found him wandering the street covered in blood, they assumed the obvious. A criminal. Within minutes, Sihan was sitting in an interrogation room under bright fluorescent lights. 2 detectives stared across the table. Where did you come from? No answer. Who attacked you? Still silence. To them he looked like a confused young man who had just survived something violent. But what they didn't realize was something much stranger. Even in this world, Sihan still had magic. The detective leaned forward again. You were not helping yourself. Sihan slowly raised his eyes. Then he whispered a single phrase. A tiny spell. So small no one noticed. The room went quiet. The detectives blinked. Their expressions softened. And suddenly, the questions stopped. Because the magic Sihan learned in Tyrant could do more than destroy enemies. It could influence minds. Minutes later, the officers released him with confused smiles. Just like that. No charges. No investigation. Sihan stepped back into the streets of Her. Alone. Again. But this world wasn't easier. When he finally returned home, the reunion wasn't warm. His father stood in the doorway. Cold. Disappointed. You disappeared for weeks. Not are you okay? Not where have you been? Just anger. Because in his father's mind, reputation mattered more than anything. You embarrassed this family. Sihan said nothing. Because explaining that he had been fighting monsters in another world for years wouldn't make sense here. His father crossed his arms. You were going back to school. Study. Become something respectable. Sihan nodded quietly. Not because he agreed, but because it didn't matter. His mind was somewhere else. Tyrant. The battlefield. The betrayal. Lithina. The 6 heroes. Every night those memories replayed inside his head. But revenge. Revenge requires opportunity. And for a long time, that opportunity didn't exist. Years passed. Sihan adapted. He studied. Worked. But secretly, he did something else. He practiced. Magic. Battle energy. Dimensional theory. Everything he remembered from Tyrant. The world around him never noticed. Because Sihan was careful. Very careful. His magic allowed him to manipulate small things. Influence people. Predict markets. Gather wealth. Within a few years he became incredibly rich without anyone understanding how. But money wasn't the goal. Power wasn't the goal. Everything he built served one purpose. Finding a way back. For years he searched. Ancient texts. Scientific research. Dimensional physics. Magical theory. Every possible lead. Every possible crack between worlds. And every single one failed. 5 years passed. Then 7. Eventually, the anger started fading. Not because he forgave them, but because the door to Tyrant looked permanently closed. One night Sihan sat alone in his apartment, staring out the window. Rain hitting the glass. City lights flickering in the distance. And for the first time, he almost let it go. Maybe that world was gone. Maybe revenge wasn't possible. Maybe his life would just continue here. Quiet. Ordinary. Then something happened. A vibration. So faint most people would never notice it. But Sihan did. His head snapped up instantly. Because he recognized that feeling. Dimensional energy. The same energy that once summoned him to Tyrant. His heart started beating faster. He rushed across the room, grabbing a small device he had been building for years. The signal appeared on the screen. A location mark. From the other side. From Tyrant. Sihan didn't hesitate. He grabbed his coat. Ran out the door. Because after 10 long years, the path back had finally opened. And the world that betrayed him was about to learn something terrifying. The hero they tried to erase was coming home. 10 years. That's how long Sung Sihan prepared for a single moment. The signal from Tyrant didn't disappear after that first vibration. It stayed. Faint, but real. A dimensional beacon. Proof that the world, which betrayed him, still existed. And if a signal could cross worlds, then a gate could too. From that moment on, Sihan stopped living like a normal person. Every day became preparation. Every night became research. His apartment slowly transformed into something that looked less like a home and more like a laboratory. Runes covered the walls. Magical circuits carved into metal plates. Stacks of notes filled with dimensional calculations. He studied the signal endlessly. Measured it. Mapped it. Rebuilt the summoning theory that once dragged him into Tyranner. But this time, he wouldn't be summoned. He would force his way back. Years passed. The gate required 3 things: power, precision, and a stable return location mark. The beacon from Tyranner provided the last one. But power, that was the hardest part. So Sihan trained. Relentlessly. Every drop of magic he had left was refined and rebuilt. His body grew stronger. His control sharper. His understanding deeper than anything he had before. Because when he returned, he wouldn't return as the same man they betrayed. He would return stronger. Finally, 10 years after the night he was thrown through that portal, the gate was ready. Sihan stood in the center of the runic circle inside his apartment. Energy pulsed through the air. The runes ignited one by one. Dimensional pressure built until the rune began shaking. This was it. There was no guarantee the spell would work. No guarantee the gate would stay open long enough. No guarantee he would even survive the crossing. But Sihan didn't hesitate. He raised his hand. Mana surge. The circle exploded with light. Space tore open. A swirling vortex appeared in the middle of the room. The gateway to Tyranner. Sihan stared into it. Then stepped forward. Because 10 years of waiting finally ended. Now, in the present, the man sitting across from Alita beside the quiet garden pond is no longer the same person who left Earth that night. He's calmer, sharper, and far more dangerous. Alita sits with her eyes closed, focusing on the lesson Sihan just gave her. Feel the mana, he says quietly. Not just the energy around you. The flow inside it. Mana moves like a current through the air. Most people can barely sense it. But if you understand the rhythm, you can predict magic before it happens. Alita exhales slowly. Then suddenly, her eyes open. I felt it. Sihan nods slightly. Good. She's improving faster than he expected. But the lesson ends when Alita suddenly asks something unexpected. So after you finish your revenge, Sihan glances at her. What then? He answers without hesitation. I go back. Back to Earth. Because no matter how long he spent in Tyranner, that world was never truly his. He was summoned. Used. Then betrayed. Earth is the only place he ever truly belongs. But Alita looks down at the water quietly. Then says something that surprises him. Take me with you. Sihan raises an eyebrow. To Earth. She nods slowly. There's nothing left for me here. Her kingdom is gone. Her bloodline hunted. Her future uncertain. If Sihan returns to Earth, she wants to go too. Sihan doesn't answer right away. Because that question opens a door he hasn't really thought about yet. Before the conversation can continue, footsteps echo across the palace corridors. Inside a quiet chamber nearby, Prince Ains stands before a woman wearing royal robes. Queen Layla. Their conversation is quiet. Tearful. Because even inside the palace, trust is fragile. Ains speaks first. The kingdom is rotting. Layla sighs softly. I know. They both understand the same thing. King Jexengard's rule is destroying the country. But before they can continue, the door opens. Count Keltarin enters the room, smiling politely. But behind that polite smile, something else is happening. Because the Count now serves someone far more dangerous than the king. And the rebellion against the 6 heroes has officially begun moving into the shadows. Power returns slowly. Not in a dramatic explosion. Not in some heroic transformation. Just day by day, inside a quiet hidden estate far from the royal palace. Sihan sits cross-legged in the center of the training hall, dozens of empty medicine bottles scattered across the floor. Inside those bottles were energy pills, rare alchemical drugs capable of restoring battle energy at terrifying speed. Sinan watches from the side. Those cost more than a noble's mansion. Sihan shrugs. Keltarin's paying. The pills dissolve inside his body like burning coal. Battle energy circulates through his veins. Faster. Stronger. Rebuilding the strength he lost when the dimensional portal threw him back to Earth. For weeks he trains like this. Fighting. Meditating. Refining the heavens breaking aura again and again. And slowly, the level he once held begins returning. Warrior rank. Then higher. Then closer and closer to master rank. But Sihan isn't the only one preparing. Across the table nearby, Count Keltarin quietly spreads out several documents. Names. Dozens of them. Nobles. Merchants. Commanders. Men and women with enough influence to shake the kingdom. Keltarin taps the list. These people hate the king. Corrupt exes. Military failures. The suffering of the lower cities. King Jackson's rule has created enemies everywhere. Most of them just needed someone brave enough to organize them. Sihan scans the names calmly. Each one another potential ally. Another crack in the throne's foundation. This isn't just revenge anymore. This is politics. Rebellion built piece by piece. Meanwhile, across the capital, Keltarin is having another conversation. This time with someone far more important. Prince Ains. The prince sits quietly inside a dim garden pavilion, while the count pours tea. Ains looks tired. Frustrated. Because every day he watches the kingdom decay while his father ignores it. Keltarin leans forward slightly. You know the truth, your highness. Ains doesn't respond. You know what your father has become. Still silence. Keltarin continues carefully. A king who cares more about luxury than his people. A hero who forgot what he fought for. The prince's hand tightens around his takeout. Because every word is true. Keltarin lowers his voice. There is another path. Ains finally looks up. What path? The count smiles faintly. The throne. Ains' eyes narrow. Eerie suggesting treason. Keltarin shrugs. I'm suggesting responsibility. Because if the prince truly wants to save the kingdom, then removing the tyrant king might be the only way. Keltarin adds one final push. And Queen Layla would stand beside you. That sentence lands like a blade. Because everyone in the palace knows something. The prince trusts the queen more than anyone else. Keltarin leans back, leaving the thought hanging in the air. The seed of rebellion quietly planted. Night falls. Back at the secret estate, Sihan finally stands after hours of training. Energy ripples faintly around his body. He's stronger now. Much closer to the power he once held. Alta notices immediately. You're recovering faster. Sihan nods. Good pills. Sinan smirks. Good sponsor. But just as the conversation begins to relax, something changes. A sound. Distant. Sharp. Sihan's eyes narrow instantly. Then, boom. The mansion explodes. Flames burst through the front hall. Windows shatter. Smoke floods the building. Sinan draws his sword immediately. Alita grabs her weapon. Attack. Servants scream as fire spreads through the corridors. And in the middle of the burning hallway, someone collapses through the smoke. A young man. Badly injured. Covered in blood. Sinan rushes forward. It's seen. The boy barely manages to speak. His voice shaking. They found us. Then his body goes limp. Sihan stands very still, watching the flames climb across the walls. Because this wasn't an accident. Someone discovered their base. Someone powerful enough to launch a direct attack. Which means the quiet planning phase is officially over. The coup against King Jackson's has just begun. The secret estate is still smoking. Half the building burned. Servants whisper nervously. And Sihan's rebellion just learned an important lesson. They were not invisible anymore. Someone out there already suspects something. But strangely, the next disaster doesn't come from assassins. It comes from Alita. Early the next morning, she stands in the garden behind the estate, hands raised carefully. Sihan watches from a distance. Sinan stands nearby with his arms crossed. Today's lesson is simple. A basic fire spell. Nothing complicated. Just the fundamentals of mana conversion. Sihan speaks calmly. Remember, control the mana first, then shape the rune. Alita nods. She breathes slowly. Mana gathers in her palm. The air begins to heat slightly. Good. Very good. Sihan nods. Now release. Boom. The explosion shakes the entire estate. A pillar of fire blasts into the sky like a cannon. Dirt erupts. Smoke floods the garden. And when the dust settles, Sinan's carefully planted vegetable field is completely gone. Just a massive smoking crater where the crops used to be. Sinan stares. Silent. Completely frozen. Alita coughs weakly from the center of the crater. I think it worked. Sinan slowly turns toward Sihan. My lord. Is. She destroyed my cabbage. Sihan doesn't answer right away. Because he's staring at Alita. Not the crater. Not the explosion. Her mana flow. Something about it is wrong. Or more accurately, abnormal. He walks closer and places a hand lightly against her shoulder. Cast again. Alita hesitates. You sure? Do it. She gathers mana again. The moment she begins casting, Sihan's eyes narrow. There it is. Her mana output spikes dramatically during the spell. Not a small increase. A massive one. Sihan mutters quietly. Mana amplification. When Alita converts mana into magic, her power multiplies. A lot. Possibly enough to rival a 7th floor magician. And she doesn't even realize it. Alita looks confused. Is that bad? Sihan shakes his head slowly. Oh. Then he glances at the destroyed garden. But we'll practice somewhere further away next time. Danon sighs deeply. My cabbage. Later that day, inside the hidden war room, the rebellion takes its next step. Prince Ains finally arrives. The young prince stands across the table from Sihan, Keltarin, and the others. He looks calm. But the tension in the room is obvious. Because this is the moment the prince decides. Or remain loyal to his father. Ains studies Sihan carefully. You want to overthrow the king. Sihan doesn't deny it. The prince folds his arms. Why should I trust you? Fair question. Anyone can talk about rebellion. Very few can actually succeed. Ains continues. If I join this conspiracy, I risk everything. His title. His lie. His future. Which means he needs proof. Not promises. Results. The prince taps a map on the table. There are 3 men protecting my father. The most loyal commanders in the kingdom. The king's personal guard. They are known by a terrifying nickname. The 3 loyal dogs. Each one powerful enough to crush small armies. Ains points to the first name. Higher Berkeley. Commander of the Black Lion Knights. A master rank warrior. And one of the king's most dangerous supporters. If you can remove him, I'll believe you. The room goes quiet. Because everyone here understands what that means. Killing Berkeley would shake the entire kingdom. But there's another problem. Sihan cannot reveal his true strength yet. If people realize the legendary hero returned, everything will explode too early. Sinan looks at Sihan. Master rank. Alita glances between them. So we need to beat him secretly. Exactly. Sihan leans over the map. Because Berkeley isn't hiding inside the palace. Right now he's leading a massive construction project. A royal fortress. Built using thousands of slave workers. And something interesting just happened there. Keltarin taps another report. Slave revolt. Workers have risen against their guards. Chaos spreading across the construction site. Which means Berkeley will personally intervene. Sihan smiles slightly. Perfect. Because in the chaos of a rebellion, accidents happen. Battles get messy. And powerful men sometimes disappear. Sihan straightens. Alright. Sinan cracks his knuckles. Alisa tightens her grip on her staff. Because the coup has just taken its first real step. The assassination of Higher Berkeley. One of the king's strongest guardians. And a master rank commander. Dust rises over the construction site like a storm. Thousands of slaves swing hammers and drag stone blocks beneath the watch of armed royal guards. This fortress is supposed to symbolize King Jektingard's strength. Instead, it becomes the birthplace of rebellion. Because deep within the worker lines, a man raises his fist. His name is Dalarf. Once a revolutionary captain who fought against the Luslan Empire. Now, a slave. His chains rattle as he steps forward. We didn't overthrow a tyrant just to become slaves again. His voice cuts through the construction yard. Workers stop. Guards turn. Dalarth raises a stolen sword. Fight, and suddenly the entire site erupts. Canes break. Tools become weapons. Hundreds of slaves surge toward the guards in a desperate charge. The royal soldiers scramble to form ranks. But the rebellion spreads too fast. Stone blocks crash. Men scream. Blood spills across unfinished castle walls. For a brief moment, it almost looks like the slaves might win. Then someone arrives. Heavy footsteps echo across the construction yard. The guards immediately straighten. Because walking through the chaos is a single man in black armor. Calm. Unbothered. Higher Berkeley. Commander of the Black Lion Knights. One of the king's 3 loyal dogs. Dalarth sees him and stops. His eyes narrow. Darthwand. Berkeley smiles faintly. So the revolutionary dog is still alive. The 2 men circle each other. Former comrades. Now enemies. Dalarth charges first. His sword swings with everything he has left. The strike is fast. Desperate. Furious. But Berkeley doesn't even dodge. Golden battle aura erupts from his body like sunlight exploding across the battlefield. Master rank aura. The power difference becomes obvious instantly. Dalarth's sword hits the golden aura and shatters. The broken blade spins across the dirt. Before Dalarth can react, Berkeley's fist moves. One strike. Just one. Dalarth's body lifts off the ground and crashes across the construction yard. The rebellion dies instantly. Slaves freeze. Guards regain control. Because everyone just witnessed the same thing. A master-rank warrior crushing a revolutionary with a single punch. Berkeley wipes dust from his gloves. Pathetic. Then he raises his voice. Execute the prisoners. The guards hesitate for half a second, then begin dragging the surviving slaves forward, one by one, preparing to kill them all, because Berkeley doesn't believe in mercy, only control. But before the first execution begins, a new voice cuts through the yard. Saw. Every soldier turns, because standing at the entrance of the construction site is Prince Ains. The guards bow instantly. Berkeley frowns slightly. Your Highness. Ains walks forward slowly, looking at the terrified prisoners, then at the broken body of Dalar. This is unnecessary. Berkeley tilts his head. These are traitors. They rebelled against the crown. Ains doesn't look away. They are starving workers who were pushed too far. The tension between them grows instantly, because the prince just challenged the king's most loyal commander. Finally Berkeley sighs. Very well. He gestures to the guards. Stand down. The prisoners collapse in relief. But Berkeley's eyes remain cold, because he knows something. The prince's mercy makes him look weak, and weakness inside the royal family creates opportunity. Watching all of this quietly from the side is a knight named Sihan. But that's not his real name. Behind the disguise is Sihan. He studies the entire scene carefully. Every movement, every decision, especially Prince Ains, because this moment tells him something important. Ains isn't weak. He just refuses to become his father, which makes him exactly the kind of ruler Sihan needs. One that can be guided, one that can be shaped. Later, as the crowd begins dispersing, Sihan approaches the prince casually, still wearing his knight's disguise. You handled that well. Ains looks tired. They were still prisoners, but they re-alive, Sihan replies. The prince studies him briefly. You were Kaltaran's knight. He nods. Just someone who believes the kingdom deserves better. Those words land carefully. Not too strong. Not too weak. Exactly enough to push the prince's thoughts in the right direction. Because while the rebellion prepares to eliminate Berkeley, Sihan is preparing something even more important. A future king. One who believes he chose the rebellion himself. Not one who realizes he was guided there all along. The tavern is loud. Mercenaries laughing. Ale spilling across wooden tables. And in the middle of it all, the Black Lion generals are enjoying themselves. One of them slams his mug down and laughs. Did you hear what the prince tried to do today? Another snorts. Mercy for slaves. Pathetic. Their captain leans back in his chair, boots on the table. Prince Ains wants to rule with kindness. The men burst out laughing. Because inside the royal army, everyone knows something. Kind kings don't survive long. The captain lifts his drink. To the future king. Another general raises his mug. King Berkeley. They laugh even harder. Because the idea of the prince actually ruling this kingdom is already a joke to them. Then, thwack. An arrow slams into the wooden wall beside the captain's head. The tavern goes silent instantly. The generals stand up, hands on weapons. Because that arrow wasn't random. It was aimed to kill. Across the street, two figures move through the shadows. One of them pulls back a hood. Sihan. Or at least the man everyone knows as Sihan. Beside him, Sihan cracks his neck. Yes, they notice. The tavern door explodes open. Black Lion soldiers rush out. The captain points directly at them. Assassins, steel flashes. The chase begins. Sihan and Zenon sprint through the streets, leaping over carts and market stalls while the elite Black Lion generals pursue them. But these aren't ordinary soldiers. These are the king's personal enforcers. Each one strong enough to crush entire squads alone. Zenon spins mid-run and clashes blades with one of them. The impact sends sparks across the alley. Another general attacks from behind. Sihan blocks. 2 against 4. Bad odds. But that was expected. Because Sihan never planned to win this fight alone. The generals suddenly spread out. One raises his shield. Formation. Golden battle aura erupts across the street. 4 shields slam into the ground simultaneously. Heian wall. Energy surges between them, forming a massive barrier that seals the alley completely. Sihan and Zenon are trapped. 4 master-level fighters. 2 targets. The generals grin. End of the road. Zenon adjusts his grip on his sword. This is bad. Sihan simply exhales slowly. Because the generals just walked into exactly the position he wanted. One of them lunges first. The battle erupts instantly. Steel crashes. Battle aura explodes across the narrow street. Zenon parries 2 attacks at once while Sihan slips between strikes. But the pressure is overwhelming. 4 elite fighters attacking in perfect coordination. Even Sihan can end the fight quickly without exposing who he really is. The generals press harder. One sword barely misses Zenon's throat. Another slash forces Sihan backward. The captain laughs. Cornered. Then, something changes. The air suddenly heats up. All 5 fighters pause. Because the temperature just spiked dramatically. The generals slowly turn. And standing at the end of the alley is Alida. Her staff glows with blinding light. Runes spin through the air like orbiting stars. Manhwa floods the street so violently the ground begins cracking. One general mutters. Mei Chin. Sihan smiles faintly. Right on time. Alida raises her hand. The spell circle expands across the entire alley. This isn't a small spell. This is something far bigger. Much bigger. Her voice echoes across the battlefield. Burning brilliant light. The generals finally realize what's happening. Stop her. Too late. Alida's eyes burn with confidence now. All the training. All the guidance from Sihan. All the power she barely understood before. It finally explodes outward. Arcane blast, the alley disappears in light. A massive pillar of fire and magic erupts upward like a volcanic explosion. Buildings shake. Windows shatter. The entire street lights up like the sun just fell into the city. When the light finally fades, smoke rolls through the ruins of the alley. The iron wall formation is gone. The generals lie scattered across the ground. Defeated. And standing in the center of the battlefield, Alida slowly lowers her staff. For the first time, she truly realizes just how powerful she is. The alley is gone. Not damaged. Not broken. Gone. Alida's burning brilliant light arcane blast tore through the street like a falling star. Walls are melted. Stone is cracked. The iron wall formation that trapped them just seconds ago has completely disappeared. For a moment, there is only smoke. Sihan coughs, brushing dust from his armor. Remind me never to stand in front of her. Sihan doesn't answer. Because Alida just collapsed. Her staff slips from her hand as her body drops to one knee. The massive spell drained everything she had. Exhaustion. Her breathing is shaky. Did we win? She whispers. The smoke shifts. Heavy footsteps echo through the ruined alley. And then someone walks out of the fire. The Black Lane captain. Not burned. Not even wounded. Completely intact. Alida's eyes widen. That should have. The captain slowly rolls his shoulders. Flames crawl across his arm like living serpents. That was a nice trick. His voice is calm. Amused. Because while the generals behind him were thrown across the battlefield, he never moved. Instead, he lifts something strange from the ground. A piece of cloth. Simple. Ordinary. But the moment he grips it, battle aura floods into the fabric. The cloth hardens instantly. Compressing. Condensing. Until it becomes something sharp. Something deadly. A spear. Fire wraps around the weapon as the captain grins. Explosive art. Zenon's eyes narrow. That's not good. The captain suddenly moves. His speed explodes forward like lightning. The flaming spear cuts through the air straight toward Alida's chest. She can even raise her staff. Her mana is empty. But the spear never reaches her. Plain. Steel intercepts the strike. Sihan. His blade stops the attack inches from Alida. The impact sends sparks across the ruined street. For a moment the two men stand frozen. Weapons locked. The captain studies Sihan's face. You're not just a knight. Sihan exhales slowly. Because the situation just changed. He was trying to keep his power hidden. Trying to fight carefully. Trying not to attract attention. But now, that's no longer possible. Behind him, Alida can fight. Zenon is still dealing with the other generals. And the man standing in front of him is a master rank killer. Sihan loosens his grip slightly. Then, the air explodes. Battle aura erupts from his body like a shockwave. Dust lifts from the ground. Broken stone rattles across the street. The captain's smile fades instantly. Because the pressure hitting him right now is unmistakable. Master rank. Sihan finally steps forward. No more pretending. The captain raises his spear again. Good. Flames surge across the weapon as the two warriors charge at the same time. The alley becomes a blur of motion. Spear and sword collide. Shockwaves explode through the street. The captain's attacks are brutal, every thrust carrying explosive force that shatters stone on impact. But Sihan moves faster, sharper, every strike perfectly controlled. The captain spins his spear and lunges again. Fire erupts around the weapon as he aims directly for Sihan's throat. Sihan slips past the attack. And then he moves. A technique from long before the betrayal. A style once feared across battlefields. Tyrant King Art. Babel or compresses around his arm. Then flows outward like a raging river. Torrent. Sihan's blade flashes once. The captain's spear shatters. The second strike lands before the man even realizes what happened. Slash. Silence falls across the battlefield. The captain's arm drops to the ground. Cleanly severed. He stumbles backward, staring in shock at the blood pouring from his shoulder. Sihan steps closer. The battle aura around him fades slightly. But the pressure remains overwhelming. The captain finally looks up. And for the first time, he understands. That technique, his voice trembles. There's only one man who fights like that. Sihan stops in front of him. The ruined alley quiet. Smoke drifting through the air. And then he speaks. Not as seen. Not as Keltaran's knight. But as the man who once led armies. Stormtroop captain. The captain's eyes widen. Sihan finishes the sentence calmly. Song Sihan. The legendary hero the world believed was gone. Standing right in front of him. The battle is over. The alley still smolders from Alada's spell. Broken stone litters the ground. And the Black Lion captain kneels in the dust, clutching the stump where his arm used to be. He stares up at the men standing before him. Stormtroop captain, Song Sihan. The name feels impossible to say, because that man was supposed to be gone. Dead. Erased from history. Yet here he is, alive. Stronger than ever. The captain laughs weakly. So the rumors were true. Sihan doesn't respond. Instead, he lowers his sword. Because this fight was never about killing a captain. It was about sending a message. The rebellion is real. The king's strongest guardians can bleed. And the legend the 6 heroes betrayed has returned. But right now, revealing that truth openly would destroy everything he's building. So the legend disappears again. The next morning, inside Count Keltaran's private study, the rebellion begins repairing its cover. Stacks of documents fill the desk. Forged records. Merchant contracts. Mercenary licenses. Keltaran adjusts his glasses while sliding one paper towards Sihan. Your new identity. The name printed at the top reads. Scene Stain. Sihan raises an eyebrow. Keltaran explains calmly. After last night, several witnesses believe you are the successor of mercenary King Barra. A famous warlord who disappeared years ago. A terrifying fighter. And conveniently, a man whose legacy left no confirmed heirs. Keltaran smiles. So we simply confirmed the rumor. The 40 documents are flawless. Birth records. Battle history. Mercenary contracts. Everything necessary to make Stein a real person in the kingdom's records. Sinan whistles quietly. You just created an entire life. Keltaran shrugs. That's what nobles are good at. Sihan studies the name for a moment. Stein. A public identity. A warrior powerful enough to move freely through the kingdom. But not suspicious enough to reveal the truth. Perfect. Because the rebellion is entering a new phase now. Politics. And politics requires masks. Meanwhile, across the capital, 2 knights sit in a quiet courtyard. Both members of the Black Lion Knights. Jordan and Rifle. Both witness the chaos spreading through the kingdom. And both are struggling with the same question. Jordan stares at the ground. We were supposed to serve the crown. Rifle nods slowly. That's what we swore. But the memory of the slave revolt still burns in their minds. The executions. The cruelty. The way the king's commanders treat the people like disposable tools. Jordan clenches his fist. This isn't what we fought for. Before either of them can say more, footsteps approach. They both stand instantly. Because walking into the courtyard is someone they didn't expect. Prince Ains. The future king. But today, he isn't here as royalty. He stops in front of them quietly. Then speaks with complete honesty. I know you were questioning things. The knights exchange glances. Ains continues. My father saved this kingdom once. But he's no longer the man who did that. The prince's voice is calm, but determined. I'm going to change this country. Silence fills the courtyard. Then he says the words that could cost him his life. I need allies. Not servants. Not soldiers. Allies. Jordan looks up slowly. You're asking us to betray the king. Ains meets his gaze without hesitation. I'm asking you to save the kingdom. The wind moves quietly through the courtyard. Because everyone here understands what just happened. The prince has officially taken his first step toward rebellion. Behind the scenes, Sihan builds identities. Keltaran manipulates nobles. And now, the future king has begun gathering his own army. The coup against King Shiksengardi is no longer just a secret plan. It's starting to move. The rebellion doesn't explode overnight. It grows. Quietly. Like cracks spreading through a palace wall. Inside Count Keltarin's hidden estate, the war room fills with new faces every week. Nobles who quietly hate King Jacksengard. Military officers tired of corruption. And most importantly, the Black Lion Knights. The same elite warriors once considered the king's most loyal guardians. But after the slave revolt, something changed. Dorban, Revihul, several others. They begin meeting secretly with Prince Ains. No grand speeches. No dramatic pledges. Just quiet conversations about what the kingdom had become. And slowly, one by one, the prince wins them over. Not with promises of power, but with something much simpler. Hope. Across the room, Sihan watches the meetings quietly from the shadows. Now operating fully under his new identity, seen sighing. The supposed successor of mercenary King Barak. A warrior powerful enough to command respect, but mysterious enough that no one asks too many questions. Keltarin steps beside him, reviewing a new list of supporters. We were growing faster than expected. Sihan nods slightly. But revolutions don't run on ideals alone. They run on resources. Food. Weapons. Money. Supply routes. Without those, even the strongest rebellion collapses. Keltarin taps a name on the table. Which brings us to our next problem. The name reads Viscount Crumble, one of the wealthiest merchants in the entire region. But more importantly, the head of the Selite merchant network. A trading empire stretching across multiple kingdoms. Caravans. Shipping routes. Supply chains. If the rebellion gains his support, they gain the ability to move armies without anyone noticing. Sihan studies the name. And if he refuses, Keltarin smiles faintly. He won. Because the Viscount isn't motivated by loyalty. He's motivated by opportunity. The meeting takes place that evening. Inside a lavish merchant estate filled with expensive carpets and shelves of rare wine. Viscount Crumble sits comfortably at the table, fingers steepled together. His eyes move slowly across the people sitting before him. Prince Ains, Count Keltarin, and the mysterious warrior known as Stein. He chuckles softly. So let me understand this. You want to overthrow the king. No one denies it. The Viscount leans back. Very ambitious. Very dangerous. But also, his smile grows wider. Very profitable. Because merchants always recognize opportunity. A new king means new trade routes. New contracts. New monopolies. The rebellion could make him richer than ever. Still, he raises one finger. I have a condition. Sihan tilts his head slightly. What condition? The Viscount turns toward Alita. Your mage. Alita blinks. Crumble nods. My daughter has been begging to learn magic. Unfortunately, competent teachers are rare. He smiles politely. So if Lady Alita agrees to mentor her, my entire merchant network will support your little revolution. Keltarin nearly laughs. That's it. But before anyone answers, the door bursts open. A young girl storms into the room. Bright eyes. Wild energy. And zero concern for etiquette. Did someone say magic? This is the Viscount's daughter. And she immediately rushes straight toward Alita. You're the mage, right? Please teach me. Alita stares. Completely caught off guard. Dina bows dramatically. I'll work hard. I'll study every day. I'll even wake up early. Sinan mutters quietly from the side. That last one might be a lie. The Viscount clears his throat. But he's clearly amused. Because Dina already made the decision for everyone. Alita glances at Sihan. He simply shrugs. You're a student. Alita sighs. Fine. Dina explodes with excitement. Yes, the room relaxes instantly. Because with that single agreement, something extremely important just happened. The rebellion now controls the Selite merchant network. Trade routes across half the continent. Supply lines capable of feeding armies. Keltarin quietly leans towards Sihan. Not bad for one student. Sihan nods slowly. But his eyes drift toward the window. Toward the distant royal palace. Because the cope is still fragile. Every new ally strengthens the rebellion. But every new ally also increases the risk of exposure. The board is filling with pieces now. Nobles. Knights. Merchants. And somewhere in the center of it all, a king who has no idea his throne is already beginning to crack. Morning sunlight spills across the courtyard of Keltarin's estate. But the quiet atmosphere doesn't last long. Again, a fireball explodes against the training dummy. Wood splinters everywhere. Standing proudly with her hands raised is Dina, the newest disciple of Alita. She beams with excitement. Did you see that? Alita sighs, lowering her staff. I saw it. Sihan watches the lesson from the shaded balcony above the courtyard. Arms folded. Silent. Because the training itself isn't what interests him. It's the energy flowing around the battlefield. Battle aura. The invisible currents of power that decide who lives and dies in this world. Dia runs toward the balcony, eyes sparkling. Master seen, Sihan raises an eyebrow. Master. She nods enthusiastically. Lady Alita said you understand combat better than anyone. Alita groans quietly behind her. I said he knows a lot. Dina leans forward eagerly. So what rank are you? Sihan glances down at the courtyard, then answers calmly. In this world, strength follows a simple ladder. He taps the railing once. First come the knight. Warriors who can manipulate battle aura. Powerful, deadly, but still bound by the limits of their bodies. Then he raises 2 fingers. Above them are the masters. Those who can control aura like an extension of their will. Faster, stronger, capable of tearing through armies. Dina's eyes grow wider. And above that, Sihan pauses for a moment, because that level is rarely spoken about. Then he raises a 3rd finger. The transcendence. At that level, aura doesn't just strengthen the body. It strengthens everything. Armor, weapons, even ordinary objects. A true transcendent could pick up a piece of cloth, reinforce it with aura, and turn it into a weapon sharper than steel. Dina gasps. That's impossible. Sihan smiles faintly. Not for the right person. His eyes drift away from the courtyard, far beyond the estate. Because once, he possessed equipment designed specifically for that level of power. 3 legendary pieces. The magic sword Disaster. The blade that could cut through dragon scales. The Louvresque armor, forged to withstand the force of collapsing mountains. And the red dragon cape. A relic soaked in ancient flame magic. Gear worthy of the battlefield he once ruled. But those items aren't with him anymore. Because the night he was betrayed, the 6 heroes didn't just exile him. They took everything he owned. Sihan's gaze hardens slightly. If they kept those relics, then someday he'll take them back. One way or another. Below the balcony, Dina finally finishes another spell. A small fireball floats above her hand. This time controlled. Stable. Alita nods proudly. Good. You improving. Across the estate, Count Kiltarin is doing something very different. Inside a quiet study room, he slides another letter across the desk to a trembling noble. A document filled with very uncomfortable details. Illegal taxes. Secret bribes. Smuggling routes. Evidence. Kiltarin smiles politely. I'm sure you'd prefer this information remain private. The noble nods quickly. Yes, of course. Then support Prince Ains. Another ally secured. Another piece added to the rebellion. All while Kiltarin publicly continues praising King Exiled. Because the best conspiracies grow behind friendly smiles. Meanwhile, inside the royal palace, someone wakes up screaming. King Exiled sits upright in his bed, drenched in sweat. The nightmare again. The battlefield. The broken empire. And a single man standing in the smoke. A warrior surrounded by lightning. Exiled grips the edge of the bed. Impossible. Because that man should be gone. Exiled. Lost forever. Yet every night the same image returns. The same memory. The same fear. Sihan. The king exhales slowly, trying to calm himself. But somewhere deep inside his mind, a terrifying thought refuses to disappear. What if the ghost he betrayed has finally come back? The king drinks while the kingdom burns. Inside the royal palace, music echoes through the halls while dancers spin across polished marble floors. Wine pours endlessly. Servants rush back and forth carrying trays of food and goblets of liquor. At the center of it all sits King Exiled, laughing, drinking, celebrating. Because officially, the kingdom is in mourning. Commander Berkeley, the king's most loyal dog, has been killed. The palace announced weeks of grief. Black banners hang across the capital. But the truth inside the palace walls looks very different. Exiled raises another cup. To Berkeley. The nobles around him lift their glasses. To the fallen hero, then they drink and laugh. Because grief is just another performance for the king. But someone else is watching the show carefully. Count Kiltarin. Standing quietly beside the throne. Listening. Waiting. Because this moment has taken months to prepare. The rebellion is ready. The alliances are in place. The Black Lion Knights are divided. Prince Ains has loyalists ready inside the capital. And now, all that remains is to pull the king out of his palace. Tyrant bows slightly. Your Majesty. Exiled waves lazily. What is it now? Tyrant lowers his voice. My spies located the rebels. The room goes quiet. Because everyone knows the rumor spreading through the kingdom. A mysterious warrior leading the resistance. A massive fighter who crushes soldiers like insects. A man called the Black Giant. Tyrant continues calmly. They are gathering at a fortress near the northern valley. Exiled frowns slightly. Rebels hiding in a castle. Tyrant nods. The leader claims to be the disciple of mercenary King Barak. The king's eyes narrow. Barak, one of the few warriors powerful enough to threaten the throne. If his disciple truly leads the rebellion, this could become dangerous. Exiled stands slowly. Finally interested. How many? Tyrant pretends to check a document. A few hundred. The king laughs. A few hundred. Then he turns to his generals. Prepare the army. Hours later, a column of soldiers marches out of the capital. 1,000 troops. And 50 of the kingdom's strongest knights. Because Exiled refuses to allow rebels to gather momentum. He intends to crush them personally. The army moves quickly. Armor rattling. Banners flying. War drums echoing through the valley. By nightfall, the fortress appears on the horizon. A stone castle surrounded by thick walls. Truck is burning along the battlements. Exiled rides to the front of the army. His eyes glow with battle aura. So this is the rebels' nest. The knights prepare siege equipment. But the king raises one hand. No need. Battle aura gathers around his arm. The ground trembles. A massive glowing seal appears in the air above him. Then, the energy expands, shaping itself into something enormous. A giant spectral hand. Battle sealed, hand of a giant. The enormous construct slams into the castle gate. Boom. Wood shatters instantly. Stone cracks. The entire entrance explodes inward. The king smirks. Advance. Soldiers pour into the fortress. Knights rush through the broken gates. Weapons raised. Expecting battle. Expecting chaos. Instead, they find silence. Empty courtyards. Abandoned walls. No defenders. No rebels. No soldiers. The entire castle is deserted. The king slows his horse. His eyes narrow. What is this? Then, heavy footsteps echo through the courtyard. Everyone turns. Because someone is standing in the middle of the fortress square. A massive figure. Covered in dark armor. Face hidden beneath a heady helmet. The legendary Rimble. The Black Giant. The king's aura flares instantly. So you're the one pretending to be Barak's disciple. The giant doesn't respond. Instead, he slowly lifts his head. And behind the helmet, Sihan smiles. Because everything has gone exactly as planned. The empty castle. The isolated valley. The reduced army. Every step of the trap worked perfectly. Exiled finally dismounts his horse. Battle aura crackling around him. You lured me here. The giant speaks for the first time. And now the tyrant king has walked directly into the battlefield Sihan prepared for him. The fortress courtyard is silent. 1,000 soldiers stand inside the captured castle, weapons raised, waiting for the rebels to attack. But nothing happens. No arrows. No war cries. No defenders rushing the walls. Just that single armored figure standing in the center of the courtyard. The Black Giant. King Exiled slowly steps forward, battle aura crackling around his body. He lured me here, he growls. The giant doesn't deny it. The king smiles coldly. Then you fool. He raises his hand. Kill him. The royal knights begin advancing. But before they can take 3 steps, the ground beneath the courtyard begins to glow. Runes. Hundreds of them. Hidden beneath the stone. Ancient symbols ignite all at once. And suddenly, boom. A massive wall of energy erupts around the fortress. The sky itself seals shut with a blazing magical dome. Soldiers shout. Knights spin around. The entire courtyard is now trapped inside a colossal high-tier magic barrier. Exiled's eyes narrow. A trap. Not just a battlefield trap. A prison. Outside the barrier, the king's lieutenants stare up at the glowing dome. 2 commanders of the royal army. The Baron. Lafol. Both powerful men. Both sworn to protect the crown. One knight shouts to them from inside the barrier. Break the circle. Destroy the spell. But outside the barrier, neither commander moves. Joldarin simply folds his arms. Lafol exhales slowly. Inside the dome, confusion spreads through the soldiers. Why aren't they attacking the barrier? The truth slowly begins to dawn. Because outside the magical prison, the two commanders turn their backs. They walk away, leaving the king trapped. The betrayal lands like a thunderbolt. Isengard's aura erupts violently. "You traitors!" But the sound barely echoes beyond the barrier, because the real attack is only just beginning. High above the battlefield, several figures raise their staffs. Mages of the Ivory Tower. Their spell circles ignite in the sky. Mana floods the valley. One mage speaks calmly. "Target confirmed." Another lifts her staff. Begin bombardment. The sky lights up. First comes Inferno. A massive sphere of fire crashes down into the trapped fortress courtyard. Then, lightning strike. Blinding pillars of electricity tear through the battlefield. The explosion of magic is catastrophic. Soldiers scream. Zone explodes. The courtyard becomes a storm of fire and thunder. One royal captain tries to shield the king, Captain Keller. But the next lightning strike hits directly beside him. The blast throws his body across the courtyard. When the smoke clears, Keller doesn't move again. The royal army inside the barrier collapses within seconds. Fire burns across shattered walls. Only one figure remains standing in the middle of the devastation. King Isengard, breathing heavily. Armor cracked, blood running down his face. He raises his battle aura again, but something feels wrong. Weaker. Slower. The king suddenly notices the runes carved into the ground beneath him. A specialized magic formation. A prison designed for one purpose. Dragon Trap. A barrier capable of suppressing even transcendent rank fighters. For the first time in years, the king feels limited. Restricted. Hunted. Footsteps echo through the smoke. One by one, figures begin appearing around the courtyard. Knights. Mages. Rebel soldiers. And at the front of them all, the black giant. Sihan. He steps forward slowly. Calm. Expressionless. Watching the fallen king like a hunter examining trapped prey. Isengard stares at him through the smoke, finally understanding everything. The empty castle. The false intel. The traitorous commanders. The Majan bombardment. The suppression barrier. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution. A coup. The king wiped blood from his mouth. "So this is how you planned it." The giant removes his helmet. And for the first time, Isengard sees the face beneath the armor. A face he hasn't seen in 10 years. A ghost from the battlefield. A man he thought he erased forever. The king's eyes widen in horror. Sihan's voice is cold, completely detached. "Hello, Devimber." The legendary hero he betrayed has finally come to collect his debt. The trap is already closed. Inside the ruined fortress courtyard, the once mighty King Isengard stands surrounded by destruction. The sky above him burns with magical fire. Moments earlier, the Ivory Tower Magens unleashed Inferno and lightning strike, raining devastation across the battlefield. Captain Keller, one of the king's most loyal men, never even had a chance. The spells erased him. And now, the king stands alone. Wounded. Surrounded. And for the first time since the coup began, the arrogant hero who once ruled this kingdom understands something terrifying. He's been betrayed. Outside the barrier, his lieutenants, Jolderin and Livel, refused to break the magic seal. They simply stood there and watched, because the rebellion has already reached deeper than he realized. But Isengard is still a hero. Still one of the 6 warriors who once crushed the Luslan Empire. And heroes don't die quietly. His aura explodes outward like a storm. Golden battle energy floods the courtyard as rage replaces shock. "You think this is enough to kill me?" His arm rises. Runes ignite across the air again. The ground trembles. And once more, the enormous spectral construct forms above him. Battle sealed, hand of a giant. The massive energy hand crashes forward, smashing through stone walls and rebel soldiers alike. Entire squads are thrown across the battlefield. The magic barrier trembles violently under the impact. For a brief moment, it looks like the king might actually break free. Rebel soldiers scatter. Knights are crushed beneath falling debris. Isengard laughs through blood-stained teeth. "You fools, you thought you could cage me." But somewhere beyond the chaos, Sihan is watching. Completely calm. Because this outcome was already expected. Tyrant steps beside him. He's stronger than predicted. Sihan nods slightly. "It is." Then he points quietly. At the wrist. Tyrant blinks. Because now he sees it too. The massive spectral army isn't perfect. Where the magical limb connects to Isengard's real arm, there's a weakness. A fragile joint where the enormous power flows through. Sihan's voice remains cold. "Break that." Orders spread instantly. Magens redirect their spells. Knights adjust their attacks. All aiming at one single point. The wrist. Exiled charges forward again, the giant hand smashing apart the rebel formation. Then a lightning spell hits, directly at the joint. Another follows. Then another. The massive energy arm flickers. Exiled stumbles. For the first time, the king's confidence cracks. Because now the rebels know his weakness. The attacks intensify. Spells hammer the joint relentlessly. The giant hand collapses, shattering into fragments of fading aura. Exiled roars in frustration. And suddenly, he runs. Not toward the castle. Not toward the barrier. But straight through the broken walls into the forest beyond. The once proud king is now fleeing like a hunted beast. Behind him, rebel soldiers shout. After him. But Sihan raises a hand. Ugh. Everyone stops. Because Sihan already knows where the king is going. Exactly where he planned. Outside the ruined fortress, deep within the dark forest, two figures stand waiting. One holding a sword. The other gripping a staff glowing faintly with mana. Sihan and Alita. They watch silently as branches snap in the distance. Heavy footsteps approach. Then Exiled bursts through the trees. Breathing heavily. Battle aura flickering around his body. The moment he sees them, he stops. Because even in the chaos of battle, he recognizes that stance. That presence. The man who once stood beside him on the battlefield. The man they betrayed. Sihan slowly steps forward. And the final hunt begins. Long before crowns, before revolutions, before betrayal, two men once stood on the same road. Years ago, the world was very different. The Luslan Empire still ruled with an iron fist. Villages burned. Bandits roamed freely. And one young man sat alone beside a dying campfire. His armor was crude. His sword chipped. But his eyes burned with ambition. That man was Exiled. Back then he wasn't a king. He wasn't even a hero. Just the leader of a small band of outlaws trying to survive in a broken world. Across the fire from him sat another traveler. A stranger. Quiet. Watching the flames. Exiled tilted his head. You fight well for a wanderer. The stranger didn't respond. Instead he asked something simple. Why stay a bandit? Exiled scoffed. What choice do I have? The Empire owns everything. The stranger looked up. Calm. Unimpressed. Then take it from them. The words hung in the air. Exiled laughed at first. But something about that man's voice made the idea feel possible. That stranger was Sung Sihan. The man summoned to save the world. The warrior who would eventually gather heroes and lead the rebellion that destroyed the Luslan Empire. And Exiled followed him. At first out of curiosity. Then out of ambition. Then out of belief. Together they fought battles that changed history. Together they toppled the empire. Together they built a new world. Until one night, the heroes decided the man who made their victory possible had become too dangerous. So they betrayed him. They exiled him. Erased him. Or at least, they thought they had. Now the forest cave is silent. The once mighty King Exiled leans against the stone wall, blood still running down his armor. The rebellion destroyed his army. His generals betrayed him. His kingdom is already slipping away. But here, in this hidden cave deep in the forest, he finally has time to think. And rage. Traitors, his voice echoes against the stone. The rebels. The nobles. Even his own commanders. They all turned on him. But the king still has plans. His eyes burn with hatred. If I can escape the capital, if I gather loyal soldiers, if I rebuild, footsteps echo behind him. Exiled freezes. Because he already knows that sound. Calm. Unhurried. The footsteps of someone who isn't afraid. Sihan steps into the cave. Moonlight spills behind him. The king stares. Sihan says nothing. Just studies the fallen ruler quietly. Exiled exhales slowly. Then laughs. A bitter laugh. So it was you. The king's voice is hoarse. You planned everything. The rebellion. The trap. The barrier. The entire coup. Sihan finally answers. Yes. No hesitation. No denial. Because the truth no longer needs hiding. The king pushes himself to his feet. Pain flashes across his face. You were supposed to be dead. Sihan tilts his head slightly. I got better. The cave fills with silence. Exiled eyes narrow. So you came back. After 10 years. To destroy us. Sihan doesn't correct him. Because that's exactly why he returned. The king exhales slowly. Then something strange happens. The rage disappears. The bitterness fades. What remains is something closer to acceptance. Exiled straightens his posture. Despite the blood. Despite the wounds. despite knowing he has already lost the war. Because this moment deserves dignity. He looks directly at Sihan. You should have told me. Sihan raises an eyebrow. About what? That you survive. The king grips his sword. If I had known, his aura begins rising again. Golden battle energy burning through the darkness. I would have killed you properly. The cave trembles as the king's battle aura expands. Because whatever happens next, Exiled refuses to die like a coward. He steps forward, sword raised. The man who once followed Sihan into war, now stands against him. Former comrades, former heroes, enemies, and for the first time in 10 years, the final battle between them begins. The cave explodes with movement. Steel crashes. Battle aura erupts like thunder. For the first time in 10 years, Song Sihan and Exiled clash again. The king attacks first. No hesitation. The sword tears through the air with brutal force. Battle aura detonating around the blade. Explosive art shatter. The strike hits the ground where Sihan stood a split second earlier. Boom. Stone explodes across the cave. Exiled laughs. Still fast, Sihan doesn't answer. Instead he steps forward. His blade glides through the air with terrifying precision. A style once feared across battlefields. Torrent. The counterattack flows like a raging river. Exiled barely blocks. Steel screeches as the two techniques collide. Shockwaves ripple across the cave walls. They separate, then clash again, and again. The duel becomes a blur of motion. Swords flash. Battle aura detonates with every strike. Explosive art. Tyrant king art. Two ancient combat styles colliding like storms. But something strange happens. Exiled suddenly pauses mid-exchange. Then his grin slowly grows water. Sihan's blade cuts through the air again. The king blocks, but now his eyes are studying every movement. Uri weaker. The words echo through the cave. Sihan doesn't deny it. Because Exiled is right. 10 years on Earth changed everything. When Sihan returned through the dimensional gate, much of his original power was gone. His aura reserves, his physical strength, his transcendent level, all reduced. Exiled laughs loudly. You lost it. The king's aura erupts even harder. Golden energy floods the cave like a raging wildfire. And you still came back. Sihan calmly shifts his stance. Because strength alone was never the reason he returned. The king charges again. Sword descending like a falling meteor. Sihan doesn't block directly. Instead, his blade redirects the force. The technique flows like water bending around stone. Tyrant king art, running water. Exiled strike slides past him harmlessly. The king stumbles one step, then laughs again. Good, because this isn't a fight for survival anymore. It's the battle Exiled always wanted. A real one. A warrior's death against someone worthy. Battle aura surges again, as the king leaps backward. His arm rises. Runes ignite in the air. The cave trembles. Sihan's eyes narrow, because he recognizes that technique instantly. The enormous magical construct forms again above the king's arm. A massive spectral limb made of condensed battle aura. Battle sealed. Hand of a giant. The colossal arm crashes down towards Sihan. The impact shatters stone. Dust fills the cave. Sihan leaps aside as the ground explodes beneath him. The king's laughter echoes through the darkness. You were weaker, but you were still dangerous. The giant hand swings again. Sihan blocks with his sword. The force sends him sliding backward across the cave floor. For the first time in the duel, Sihan is pushed onto the defensive. But instead of anger, a strange calm appears in his eyes. Because there's something more important than winning this fight. Something he's waited 10 years to ask. The giant hand rises again. But before the king can strike, Sihan speaks. Quite direct. Why didn't you kill me? Exiled freezes. Just for a second. The spectral hand hangs in the air. Sihan's voice remains steady. You betrayed me. You exiled me. But you didn't kill me. The cave goes silent except for the rumble of battle aura. Sihan's gaze sharpens. You had the chance. So why didn't you finish it? The giant hand hangs frozen in the air. Exiled stares at Sihan. For the first time in the entire battle, the king doesn't attack. The question lingers between them. Why didn't you kill me? The cave trembles with battle aura, but neither man moves. Then Exiled exhales slowly. Because some of them were cowards. Sihan's eyes narrow. The king lowers his sword slightly. That night, when we betrayed you, his voice becomes quieter. 3 of them refused to kill you. The memory burns behind his eyes. They said sending you back to Earth would be enough. Enough punishment. Enough distance. Enough guilt to silence their consciences. They wanted to pretend they weren't murderers. Exiled laughs bitterly. So instead of killing you, they threw you away. The words echo through the cave. For 10 years, Sihan wondered why they chose exile instead of execution. Now he finally knows. Not mercy. Not strategy. Just cowardice. Sihan's expression doesn't change. But the air around him grows heavier. Exiled notices. And suddenly his anger returns. He should have stayed there. His aura erupts violently. Golden battle energy floods the cave again. He should have disappeared. The giant spectral arm above him slams down. Battle sealed. Hand of a giant. The massive construct crashes towards Sihan like a falling mountain. But the king doesn't stop there. His other arm rises. Another seal ignites. And suddenly, a second spectral limb forms. A colossal glowing fist. Fist of a giant. Both constructs swing simultaneously. The cave collapses under the impact. Stone explodes. Dust fills the air. The king roars with fury. He should have never come back. For a moment, it almost looks like Sihan disappears beneath the avalanche of attacks. But when the dust clears, he's still standing. Calm. Unmoving. Exiled freezes. Because something just changed. The battle aura around Sihan begins rising. Slowly. Then faster. Then violently. The pressure in the cave multiplies instantly. Stone cracks beneath his feet. Exiled's grin fades. Wait. The aura continues expanding. Not weak. Not damage. Not diminish. Stronger than before. Sihan tilts his head slightly. You really thought I was struggling? The king's eyes widen. Because suddenly the entire fight makes sense. The defensive movements. The cautious strikes. The moments where Sihan seemed weaker. It wasn't weakness. It was bait. Sihan wanted to see how strong Exiled had become. To test him. To measure the king, who once fought beside him. The aura surges again. Now it's overwhelming. The cave walls begin cracking under the pressure. A new technique flows through Sihan's body. Aura compresses. Condenses. Then erupts outward. Earthquake aura, extreme light. The ground splits beneath them. Exiled's giant constructs shatter instantly. Fragments of battle aura scatter like glass. The king stumbles backward. For the first time in the battle, fear flashes across his face. Sihan steps forward. His aura now fully unleashed. No restraint. No deception. The power of the man who once led armies. The man the world called savior. The king raises his sword desperately. But Sihan is already moving. His arm rises. Aura gathers around him like a storm. Then he releases it. Heavenly wave, meteor shower. The cave explodes. Blinding streaks of energy rain down like falling stars. Every strike hits with catastrophic force. The ground shatters. The walls collapse. And Exiled is caught in the center of the storm. The attacks hammer him relentlessly. 1, 2, 20. Until finally, the aura fades. Silence returns. Dust settles slowly across the ruined cave. And in the center of the destruction, Exiled collapses. His sword slips from his hand. The former king lies defeated. And standing above him, Sihan finally ends the war between them. The cave is silent. Moments ago it shook with explosions of battle aura. Now, only dust drifts slowly through the air. In the center of the ruined chamber lies the fallen king. Exiled. Armor shattered. Sword gone. His once blazing aura reduced to nothing but faint sparks flickering across his body. Standing above him is the man he betrayed. Stone Sihan. For several seconds, neither of them speaks. Exiled coughs weakly, blood staining the stone beneath him. So this is it. His voice isn't angry anymore. Not proud. Just tired. Sihan says nothing. The king stares up at the cave ceiling, watching dust drift through the moonlight. You asked why we betrayed you. Sihan's eyes narrow slightly. Exiled laughs quietly. You already heard part of it. The heroes who exiled Sihan couldn't bring themselves to kill him. They chose exile instead. But that wasn't the real reason the betrayal happened. The king slowly turns his head. I hated you. The words fall into the silence. Not shouted. Not dramatic. Just honest. You were stronger than all of us. Smarter. Calmer. Every battle they fought, Sihan led. Every victory, Sihan made possible. The others were heroes. But Sihan, he was something else entirely. Exiled clenches his fist weakly. I didn't want to rule the world standing in your shadow. His eyes burn with bitter pride. So it shows a world where you didn't exist. The cave grows quiet again. Sihan listens. Expression unreadable. Because that confession explains everything. Pride. The oldest reasons for betrayal. Finally Sihan steps forward. Chaiksengard closes his eyes. Go ahead. Kill him. End it. The king expects the sword. Instead, Sihan raises his hand. Mana gathers in the air. The energy feels strange. Different from battle aura. Different from normal magic. Alatus' voice echoes faintly from behind the cave entrance. Are you sure about this? Because the spell forming now is something much more dangerous. The air twists. Space bends. A glowing circle of runes appears behind Chaiksengard. Reality tears open. A swirling portal forms in the air. Dark. Violent. Filled with distant roars. The king's eyes widen. A gate. Sihan nods once. The gate of the otherworld. The same kind of dimensional portal used to summon heroes. Or exile them. Chaiksengard slowly realizes what this means. Through the portal, shapes move. Massive creatures. Claws. Teeth. A world filled with monsters. The same kind of place Sihan was thrown into. The king laughs weakly. You are sending me there. Sihan's voice is calm. This. Not execution. Not mercy. Something much worse. A life fighting monsters in an endless nightmare. Exactly what Sihan endured after the betrayal. Chaiksengard exhales slowly. Then, he smiles. Fair. Because if anyone deserves that fate, it's him. The king slowly pushes himself to his feet. Even now, he refuses to crawl. He turns toward the portal. Wind from the other dimension roars through the cave. Then Chaiksengard looks back one final time. You won. Sihan doesn't answer. The king laughs softly. Then, he steps forward. The portal swallows him instantly. The gate of the other world closes behind him. And just like that, the former king of Laytonburg disappears into a far more brutal world. Silence returns to the cave. Alta walks in slowly. You really let him live. Sihan shrugs. He'll wish I didn't. Because that world doesn't forgive weakness. Alta watches the place where the portal vanished. Won't this cause problems later? Sihan kneels beside the fallen equipment scattered across the cave floor. Chaiksengard's armor. His weapons. His relics. Sihan calmly begins collecting them. Everything causes problems later. He lifts one of the king's enchanted pieces of gear, studying it thoughtfully. But revenge. He slips the relic into his bag. Is worth the trouble. Sihan thought the hardest battle was killing the king. But the real war is only beginning. As a new kingdom rises and old allies become terrifying enemies, he is about to face a betrayal stronger than he ever imagined. Sihan wants you to like and subscribe this channel, so you don't miss the moment he confronts Lavina again.